Hello, this is the fourth part of Imperfection by Neon Zangetsu. Link will be in the description. All author's notes have been removed between chapters. Also, any NSFW scene will be removed. This part will cover chapter 19 to 24. Cold, but I'm still here. Uzumaki City, thus named for the hero who'd saved the world from Cell. It was a bustling community filled with posters and signs espousing their savior, Uzumaki Naruto. 7 years of fortune and fame had done little to dull his image and reputation in the eye of the world. His prowess was the stuff of legend. Crime was at a worldwide all-time low. Women envied him. Men wanted to be him. Children played games pretending to be him. Here was a god in their eyes, great and powerful, one who could not be defeated. But today that god came crashing down to earth. It happened completely out of the blue. One moment Videl Satan had been about to return home for a well-earned rest. Her key was already turning in the lock. It was a relatively large apartment here in Uzumaki City, easily affordable despite her low-paying job at the dojo. How ironic. Day in and out, she cursed the fates that she'd found herself living in the city named after the so-called savior of Earth. The very idea that someone seemingly so benign was capable of crushing Cell was ridiculous in her mind. Until that fateful day, the name Naruto had meant nothing. Now it was a goddamn worldwide brand. Whereas Hercule Satan was mocked as a coward and weakling, a man incapable of protecting the earth from danger. Naturally, as his daughter, Videl had caught more than her share of flack during her childhood. She'd been mocked and ridiculed incessantly. Instead of the daughter of the champ, she became the daughter of the imposter. It wasn't an easy thing, living in the shadow of a man who'd tried to deceive the world and failed at the last hurdle. His attempted deception had left her father a broken man, one who thought drink could assuage his guilt. Not that he'd ever beaten her. He was more of a crying, depressed drunk. Mom ended up leaving because of that, and Videl only hated Uzumaki Naruto all the more. It was like a sickness in her, this anger, this need to reclaim her honor from this imposter, the man who'd unknowingly stolen it from when she was only 10 years old girl. Funny how 7 years could give you plenty of time to think and hate. It wasn't until she'd uncovered the identity of the acclaimed teenage hero of Orange Star High School, also known as the Gold Fighter, that she had even begun to consider that there might be an entirely different realm of fighting. Yes, Gohan had opened her mind to that much at the very least, and, in discovering his identity, he'd given her the chance to redeem her father, if not herself. Gohan. In another life, one where her father did save the world, one without Naruto, she might fallen in love with him mayhaps. But not here. Not in this universe. There was too much anger, too much hate. Her only hope of getting her life back was to win this tournament somehow. As if she actually had a chance against the man who'd beaten Cell. Just my rotten luck, I suppose. Sighing, she grabbed the handle and wrenched the door open. And then all hell broke loose. Her only warning was that of a faint whistling sound in her ears. Then her apartment exploded. A red-black figure shot through, leaving a gaping hole in her residence. It caromed off a nearby lamppost and crashed into the city streets, cratering the concrete with a terrible thud. There was a moment of silence. Videl started slightly, turning from the ruin of her apartment to the gaping crater that now filled the street. And the man who lay within. She almost couldn't believe what had just happened to her. What she was looking at. Ow, a male voice groaned. Without thinking, she reacted. Scrambling down into the smoking ruin, hissing softly as the ashes burned at her twin braids, she started grabbing at the rubble and tearing it away. She always liked keeping her hair long, but here and now it was more of an impediment than anything else. But she kept at it until finally, with a crunch, the last kunk gave way. Who she saw there too, her breath away. Oh, a rough voice groaned from the shattered asphalt, its owner sitting up only a moment later. Damn woman packs a fucking wallop. Smacked me clear into another city. Those blazing yellow eyes did not seem to see her, recognize her. They didn't seem to see anything but the ground at his feet. You? Her bright eyes narrowed on him as he rose, brushing the last of the dust and debris from his skin. You're Naruto? Huh? Growling, the dark-haired hero turned his head toward her. Yeah, that'd be me. And you are? Those cold yellow eyes regarded her balefully. Wait, I know you. Videl shrunk back. You're that girl. Videl, the one who goes to school with Gohan. His lips curled down into a frown, making his already stern expression all the more severe. Hercules' daughter. Something about the way he said her father's name made it sound like a curse. What does the spawn of that leech want with me? Videl tried to muster up her resolve, but that eerie gaze took her courage and stripped it away. Well? He pressed. You? Yes, me. Damn it! Standing before her was the very man who had ruined her father, and by reputation, her as well. And she couldn't bring herself to do anything but whimper. I'm going to beat you, she managed to gasp out under that soul-searing stare. In the World Tournament. Who? A smirk curved at his visage. You've got some spunk there. Move! Before she could ask what that meant, the Super Saiyan yanked her aside, into his chest. Her face coloured, the heat of an explosion warming her back. Strong arms wrapped around her, ferrying her to safety in a single leap. For a terrifying instant, Videl was only aware of his heart hammering in her ear, the wind rushing through her hair and the fur tickling at the nape of her neck. Then she remembered where she was. Who this was, his tight biceps cocooning her in safety and warmth. Unbidden, her heart skipped a beat. Boom! The pair of green dumpsters next to them suddenly exploded as an energy beam descended upon them, missing the pair by a hair's width before incinerating the metal containers. Naruto leapt again, now darting to the side as the attacker's blast extinguished upon the concrete, the fur on his arms sizzling from the heat. With a quick twist of his body, he spun himself off the concrete and quickly launched into a breakneck lung at the safety afforded by a nearby building. You all right? He rumbled a question. Indignant anger darkened Videl's visage. All right? Of course she wasn't all right. Get off of me! She snapped as they landed, jerking backwards from him. He let her. Why did you... A searing line of ki shot between them, killing those words dead. Pain blossomed in her face, blood dribbling down the side of her cheek. She'd been cut, she realized. But who? There, hovering only a few feet away, was possible the most beautiful woman she'd ever seen. Bright eyes, pale porcelain skin, with a body that most models would have gladly killed for. She alightened effortlessly a yard in the distance, a foul glint shining in those deadly orbs. Heels clicked softly as she started towards them. The golden red ribbon insignia on her belt seemed to glint in the fading light. There was something determined about her gait as she sashayed forward, her fingers slowly clenching and unclenching into fists. And then she spoke. Leave, human, the woman said. Her rich, husky voice sent a shiver of fear shooting down the girl's spine. That was a warning shot. The next one won't miss. Naruto growled, all edges and tension once again. Better do what she says. Videl gasped in relief and rushed past Naruto, desperate to be away from these two. She searched the rubble awkwardly for a place to sit or hide, and Naruto directed her to an untouched building down the way. The girl did a little tumble as she scrambled for cover, then a nod as she ducked down into the alley, clasping her hands in her lap. Stay there, he instructed, words echoing. In a bold bolt of light, he roared into the air. Super 18 followed him, unhurriedly ascending from the dry ground and approaching him. There was a moment of painful silence between the two, Cyborg and Saiyan. There was so much that Naruto wanted to say to her, to ask what was going on here. At last she drew away, a cold, cruel light gleaming in her ice-blue eyes. Are you ready to die? She asked. Not really. Too bad. Naruto and Super 18 collided in a storm of fire and thunder. He fell back, red smearing across his vision from a cut over his right eye, and threw a barrage of molten energy in 18's direction, but she dodged nimbly aside, then he could follow, reappearing moments from him. He turned just in time to block her scything strike, grappling with her and trying to force her back. They struggled there for a moment, twin titans of a madman, one fighting to save the Earth, the other wanting nothing more than to destroy it. Give it up, she smiled, sneering as her fingers bit into his. We both know you don't have what it takes to defeat me. We'll just see about that, he growled. Yes, we will. Grinning fiercely, 18 lurched forwards, a headbutt breaking his nose and a follow-up knee strike as he flinched with pain breaking his guard. Her hand snaked out, catching him by the neck before he could fall and holding him up before her. Give it up, 21, she ordered. If you do, I'll make it quick. Her words trailed off in bafflement as the Super Saiyan raised both hands, splayed fingers now framing either side of his face. Almost immediately she saw, knew, what he was about to do. She knew his every technique and had been equipped with a method by which to counter them. But instead of preparing itself to defend as her programming ought to, her body refused to comply. Refractive lenses should have slid over her eyes to protect her vision against potential blindness or worse. Instead, she found herself inexplicably held aloft, powerless as the white light seared itself into her retina. Solar flare! This close, powered by the godlike might of Super Saiyan 4, Naruto's technique burned. Ah! The super android shrieked in raw agony and clawed at her face, inadvertently dropping her opponent as she felt her eyes shrivel up. My eyes! What have you done to me? Her augmented regeneration worked overtime to repair the damage that had been done to her poor visage. Had Naruto been wise, he would have finished her off right then and there. But he didn't. Couldn't. Something stopped him. In that instant, it was completely within his power to end her. But even as he raised his hand to finish it, he heard her speak. Something bade him be still. Me? Naruto froze. What? Kill me, she sobbed into her hands. You have to, please. I can't stop her anymore. This wasn't the same voice of the woman who'd been trying to murder him a minute ago, proud, haughty, and welling with old arrogance. This voice was broken and weak, less a whimper and more a whisper. Drifting closer, he dared to lay a hand upon her shoulder. She swung, not to attack him as he suspected, but to look in the eyes. Those bright blue eyes bored into his with a feverish desire. Terror gripped him. 18? I could stop her, she babbled, grabbing him by the shoulders, her hands twitching like a marionette plucked by its master's strings. She's everywhere. In my head, in my mind, her teeth on my ear. Please. You have to finish her. Me. Now. You have to kill me, Naruto. I don't want to live like this. Don't let me live like this. Strain branched at the corners of her eyes, veins popping in her forehead as she struggled to fight back against the insidious influence corrupting the very core of her being. Listen, Dr. Jiro's laboratory is only a few miles from here, out in the wastelands. Once you've finished me, you have to go there and destroy his master computer. You can't let it create any more abominations. I'm sorry it has be like this. A tiny sob fled from her throat. So sorry. There has to be another way. He shook his head frantically, dismayed at the prospect of killing her. I can stun you, subdue you somehow. We can use the Dragon Balls. There's no time. She'll kill you. Me. She's not going to terrorize the planet. She wants to destroy it. You know what you have to do. Grabbing his hand, she forced it up against her chest, just above her heart. Quick, while I still have control. Please. I can't. Kill me, she screamed. No, fight her. I can't. Yes, you can. No. Her body quivered all over, eyes flashing blue, then white, then yellow as her spirit railed against the programming. And for a moment, just a moment, it seemed she had the upper hand. But then a cool, bleak expression settled over her visage, her eyes turning icy and black. Naruto grimaced and began readying himself for the assault that he knew was coming. If there was even the most remote possibility that 18 was still alive in there, she'd want to be free. He knew he should honor her request. 18 wouldn't want to live a life being controlled. But to kill her, he could not bring himself to do it. In the end, he hung there, waiting for her to recover. And she did. Even as he looked on, her body straightened, unfeeling eyes turning upon him once more. I've changed my mind. Super 18 spat, her every word dripping with venom. I'm through taking my time with you. You'll burn, along with this wrecked excuse of a planet. You can try. His body began to heat up as he fought to keep his emotions from taking control, vibrating slightly as if lit by an inner glow. But you'll never succeed. Our powers are exactly equal. And unlike some, I already know better than to give you any more energy. He let his power fly in all directions, forcing her back as streamers of unholy light soared across the evening sky, bright embers carving themselves into the fading light of the setting sun. Naruto roared, his power building to its maximum as he stared down the love of his life. Oh? You're not the only one with those tricks. Laughing, she crossed her arms. Naruto raised a hand in defense, bracing himself for what was to come. The sudden contrast in her aura caught him completely unawares, his eyes widening as she surged forward far faster than before. Flat-footed in response, he almost didn't believe what his eyes, ears were telling him. Kaioken. Fu 18 brought her clenched fingers slashing downwards, but the Saiyan was able to move at the last second, turning a possibly lethal strike into a shallow cut that extended across his stomach. Naruto skidded back a bit on one foot, his heel digging into the air beneath it. After a quick glance down at his fresh wound, his lips formed a scowl. "Too close, yipe!" Naruto barely had time to raise an arm before a crimson-coloured fist swung down at his head. His own arm was suddenly effulged in golden light, barely warding it away. The next sent his universe spinning like a wheel on a carousel, hurling him down to the grounds. A gentle ki kept him from crashing into the grounds, but only just, his sharp descent sending onlookers scattering like so many mice as their saviour stopped not an inch away from demolishing the entire block with his unplanned descent. By the time he looked up, it was too late to stop. 18 shone like a veritable crimson star in fading lights, arms thrust outward at either side. Almost immediately, his eyes recognized the attack as one he himself had wielded against Broly all those years ago. But this was a realm beyond that. "Now, disappear with your rotten world!" She screamed. "Final!" "Oh, balls." Naruto muttered. "Seriously?" He shouted up at her. "Are we seriously doing this?" Her only response was an incoherent shriek of rage. The hybrid sighed. "God damn it." Flash! Like a pillar of heavenly light, the android's stolen Tenkei lit up the horizon for miles in either direction. With a resonant thrumming sound, it erupted from her palms and roared down at the earth, a harbinger of death and doom with only one purpose: destruction. Videl yelped and ducked deeper into cover in the ruin that was her apartment, certain that this was the end. Okay, I believe. There's no way this is an illusion. Please make it stop! Wait a second, is that? What the heck is he doing? Civilians cried out in panic and terror, the entire city running for what little cover they could find in the face of this unexpected threat. None save her seemed to notice Naruto, the lone Saiyan figure still standing in the streets, his blazing yellow eyes staring up unflinchingly into the heat of the approaching storm. Quietly, his voice so low as to nearly be overcome by the blaze, he began to chant, "Me! Ha! Me!" Naruto waited until it was almost close enough to singe the front hairs off his chest before bringing both of his own arms upwards, red energies surging in an instant. Ha! Met with this ungodly counter, the final flash bent and bulged inward as the pillar of crimson light slammed into it, forcing her beam up and away from the planet. The sudden release of pent-up energy shattered the asphalt at his feet, splintering entire buildings in either direction for miles. 18 snarled and dug in as the blast wave pushed itself towards her, stalling it just at mid-length, but no further. She refused to be budged, knowing she could keep this up for hours. Her energies were limitless and eternal, whereas the Saiyan would surely tax himself beyond measure long before she began to tire. She was superior. She was the ultimate android. Coupled with his hesitation to harm her and, well, she was beginning to enjoy his suffering. "What's the matter, 21? She cackled. "Feeling tired already? It must be hard for you with that mortal body of yours. I bet this makes it burn." Naruto slammed down to a knee as a sudden surge of ki pushed through their struggle, his arms nearly going numb from the strain. But he held. Gritting his teeth, he dug deeper and summoned up the energy needed to counter. Super. 18 hissed from her perch in the sky, eyes widening as his ki began to fluctuate once more. "No." "Kaio?" "No." "Ken?" "No." Desperately, she tried to pour more power into her attack. Still, the Saiyan held, a bulwark against her oppression. No. God, this was going to hurt. Having a body that was more man than machine now had its upside. For one, you could feel the wind on your face, taste food, experience the softness of your lover's skin on your own. But it also had drawbacks. For one, his energy wasn't unlimited, and using this technique in this form was a bitch. With a final preparatory gasp, he steeled himself and boosted his power the highest he'd ever dared. ×10. No! Energy surged upwards, the once previous stalemate rocketing upwards. Super 18 shrieked, realizing too late that she wouldn't be able to evade in time. Gasping, she twisted aside at the last instant, flinging up a barrier just as the world collapsed around her. Dimly, she became aware of an arm flopping away from her, joined by a leg. But she survived, her eyes squeezing shut as the blinding light roared past without her on it, as he'd no doubt had planned. And then the brilliant beam was gone, blazing up and past her. Pain pervaded every inch of her body, her wounds crying out for comfort. Red stained her gaze. "Damn you!" she hissed down at him. "Look at what you've done. You've maimed me." Naruto straightened with an effort, his muscles spasming. His regeneration was working to compensate, but it couldn't make up for the ki he'd lost. "Okay. Ew. That was... Are you insane?" His head cocked aside as dust-covered Videl darted out of cover. Her eyes were wide and frantic, her hair having come unbound from the twin ponytails sometime in the blast. He barely stilled a laugh at the sorry sight of her. He barely had the strength to move when her hand smacked into his chest. "You almost blew up the planet! Are you trying to get yourself killed? And here I thought you didn't care." I don't," she sputtered. You take your crazy fights somewhere else." "And here you said it was nothing but tricks." "Idiot. I'm the only one who's allowed to defeat 21. Here she comes," Naruto muttered. "And she's mad as a hornet." He flexed a hand, grimacing as it twitched in quiet agony. "Well, at least I can move again. Better take this elsewhere, though." Even as he pressed 2 fingers to his forehead, a hand locked around his face. He dodged aside as a fist swept through the space he'd just occupied, power-swollen knuckles striking a startled afterimage instead of the man behind it. Her eyes shot downward, alarmed to find the shinobi less than a few feet below, and closing fast. Desperately, she rose, trying to outpace him, but to no avail. He immediately swung forwards with his own hand as he reached his desired altitude, Super 18 barely dodging the swift strike. Unlike the last time the duo had encountered one another in combat, Naruto was finding that he was faring rather well against Super 18. Whereas the android had practically swatted his blow away in irritation 15 minutes ago, the last 2 blows had already opened up numerous trenches in her pale skin, and though they healed, they'd stained her blue and white uniform red. Which was not to say that the Super Saiyan was unscathed, quite the contrary. Naruto had found himself dodging and narrowly avoiding almost every attack that this super android had sent his way. He was still in one piece, physically, but he could feel that his endurance was beginning to falter. He'd been in this form too long, and it was beginning to drain him. He had to end it, soon. His heart wrenched at the thought. Thus far, he had been beating the tar out of 18, yet to end her, to extinguish her from existence. But the alternative meant that there wouldn't be an Earth anymore. His family would be gone. So would all those below. One life lost to save billions more. He could understand the cold logic, his mind even accepted it, but his heart refused to comprehend the concept of killing one of his precious people. The idea of murdering someone he cared about in cold blood, his very being revolted against it. But his body refused to stand idle in the face of his threat, his lips quirking in a snarl. 18. I won't let you hurt innocent people anymore. Oh? Her lip curled cruelly as she laid a hand on her hip, emotionless blue eyes regarding him with conceited contempt. What are you going to do, husband? Surely you don't plan on killing me? No. She shook her head, the idle motion tossing her flaxen tresses over a shoulder in an act of pure spite. I know you. You're too soft-hearted for that. You wouldn't dare lay a hand on your precious darling. That's what makes you weak, just like your family. Like 22. A muscle jumped in Naruto's jaw. Blue eyes flashed red. What did you say? She blinked as her sensors beeped a warning. Did you say Samui? 18 suddenly found herself bent double as his fist sheathed itself in her stomach, her body hunched over the Super Saiyan's arm. She struggled for breath, but none would come. All that emerged was the softest of squeaks. She couldn't move, couldn't so much as bat an eyelash. His blow, quick as it was, had shorn straight through her stomach and out the other side, piercing walls of flesh and damaging circuitry. A gore-covered hand now erupting out her back in a spray of bloody viscera. For a moment, panic took her. If he struck now, she was finished. She couldn't absorb anything like this, and he had to know that. But then, the inexplicable occurred. Naruto jerked back as if he'd been burned. Super 18 was left hunched over in the air, clutching at her vital organs, sweating fretfully as the miracle that was regeneration worked frantically to repair the fist-sized hole in her stomach. Terrified, her eyes darted to her adversary. He wasn't even making a move to attack. Instead, he stared down at his bloodied palm in abject horror. "Finish it!" She could hear the other 18 all but shrieking in the depths of her mind, hoping, praying that her beloved would finish this once and for all. "Hurry! Before it's too late." But he didn't. And with each second that passed, Super 18 grew more assured of her triumph. A low, throaty chuckle left her lips. Within seconds, the flesh and circuits had been regrown and repaired. Grimacing with pain, her forehead slicked with sweat, she rose, all the while trying not to show just how unnerved she truly was. To think he'd had that much power kept in reserve. Not that it mattered now. His slim window of opportunity was now firmly closed. The corrective procedures in her programming would ensure that a mistake like that wasn't made again. Not in the slightest. "See?" she jeered, rubbing at the still tender skin. "Weak. You don't have what it takes to finish the job." Now it was she who lashed out, an open palm cracking across his face, launching him across the horizon. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw ice and snow, realizing she'd swatted him clear across the globe this time in her rage. Still struggling against his momentum, he tilted his head back and caught sight of the full moon. Something leapt in his chest, his heart hammering heavily. Bloodied lips curled into a rictus of a smile. "That's it! If I can't beat her, then maybe." Grunting, he righted himself at the last instant, a gentle ki pushing him upright. "Still want to fight, huh?" 18 sneered, snapping into existence before him. "Or are you just a masochist?" Naruto's only response was to clench his teeth, molars grinding together in furious aggravation. And then, suddenly, inexplicably, his shoulders drooped. His arms dropped to his sides, head dipping into shadow seconds later. A lone tear trailed down his cheek, tracing his chin before dropping to the frozen wasteland below. "Forgive me, my love," he whispered, red-rommed eyes drifting closed. "I'll be joining you soon." Super 18 frowned. His kit, nearly equal to her own, suddenly began to fluctuate. But it wasn't getting stronger. If anything, it was weaker, as though a second power were ebbing and flowing deep within him. But that wasn't possible. It shouldn't be possible. "Did you know?" The Super Saiyan began softly, his voice little more than a monotone as he raised his gaze, eyes screwed shut. "There's a beast inside of me. He's been there for as long as I can remember. Always. He doesn't care about me, my friends, family, or even you. But there is one thing he cares about. Fighting. He got out once and I swore he'd never see the light of day again. But now I see, the only way to do this is to be that beast, to become the very thing I despise. To let him out. To become the beast." What? It happened too fast for her senses to register. So fast. A clawed hand grabbed her by the neck, and she was lifted off her feet faster than the eye could follow. The air boiled around her like a thing alive as she shot downwards to the earth and immediately slammed into an iceberg, then another, and still another, her vision a white blur from the jarring impacts. A foot crunched down on her chest before she could hope to rise, forcing her into the floor and splintering a rib. She didn't understand. What was happening here? Gasping, she bolted, flickering away, and slammed into an impenetrable wall. Haunting red eyes glared down at hers, slitted pupils fierce and bestial. His hair was a stark scarlet now, just like his fur. The colour of blood, of death. Die. It spat. Stars' entire galaxies really erupted before Super 18's vision as clenched, fur-covered knuckles cracked across her visage, now sending the blonde beauty smashing into, then through a patch of ice and into the icy depths below. She righted herself almost immediately beneath the frigid water, slowly scrubbing at the rising welt on her cheek with the back of hand. For a moment she was stunned into speechlessness. Naruto had actually struck her. Full force. A part of her had been gambling on the fact that he'd hold himself back. Not anymore. If he was coming at her with full force, a bolt of crimson alerted her to his presence. Just like that. She was airborne again, her chin stinging from some unseen blow. Another speared her throat, stomach, hurling her down to the ice like some sort of tiny broken doll. Blood frothed at her lips as she struggled to rise, gazing fearfully upon her former foe. What is this?" she sputtered as he descended. "What did you do? Who are you?" His eyes, twin crimson orbs, illuminated the surrounding darkness with their scorn. "I am your executioner," the beast growled. Terrified, she tried to stand. Naruto suddenly vanished from her sight, whispering back into existence directly behind his now startled opponent. His hands were already cupped, shining with scarlet energy. Fool! Doesn't he know that will make me even more powerful? So much for your much-vaunted wit, Uzumaki Naruto. Scoffing, she prepared to do just that. Even as Super 18 raised her arms, intending to absorb all of the incoming waves of energy, the ninja vanished. A booted foot slammed into her back, breaking her stance for a heartbeat staggering her forward. It was enough. Time seemed to slow as he dropped the energy in his hands and instead drew his fist back. Light erupted around his hand, accompanied by a deep roar. What was that? It sounded almost like a dragon fist! The golden dragon produced by Naruto's new attack rammed head-on into Super 18, enormous teeth biting down into her shoulder and midsection, continuing its ungodly acceleration and propelling her down into the earth one final time. She was screaming, but she wasn't aware of this. She could barely perceive anything beyond this point. Her barrier was all that held it at bay, all that kept her from disintegrating outright in the face of his newfound power. But she could feel it breaking. One more attack and her shield was finished. Good. Go away! Super 18 shrieked vehemently at the voice in her head. Do you really have Death Wish? Do you? Something was wrong. She couldn't feel her arms or her legs. Everything was stiff, but this was a different kind of stiffness. Even as she listened, the voice grew louder in her head. Something was sapping her strength. The light was fading now. Everything was growing dark. She blinked and found herself staring at 18, the real 18, the one she'd thought to have erased. You're a copy. The original growled at her. A soulless bit of code. You don't even have a soul, do you? You're just a machine cobbled together from the spare parts of an energy absorption model. I don't need a soul. I am the ultimate android. 18 scoffed at her. Ultimate piece of shit is more like it. The moment he let loose, you were doomed. It doesn't matter. Spitefully, she sneered. If I die, then so do you. And he'll never recover from that. And that's where you'd be wrong. At first, I thought dying was the only way out. Then I realized something. What's mine is yours, and what is yours is mine. You can destroy, or you can control. Or haven't you noticed? You've been so preoccupied with running for your life, with fighting, that I was able to seize control. All your key processes belong to me now. Her lips quirked in a satisfied smirk. In a few seconds, so will your consciousness. Then this body, after which I'll delete you. You'll be nothing more than a bad memory. You'll never be rid of me. This body is mine, Lazuli. Hardly. If 20 know. If Naruto is willing to destroy us to save the world from Gero's madness, then he deserves his own shot at happiness. Without you. No. And I... Not like this. She couldn't just be... She could feel herself slipping. The command wasn't working. Why? Where had she gone wrong? How is this? Stronger. This wasn't supposed to... Error. Does not compute. Can... Toddendot code 3621 must... Diddy. Die diddy dee. Then you! Blue eyes bulged as he reappeared over her. Nah, the end came not with a bang, but with a sigh. Naruto's ultimate Kamehameha plowed straight through 18's feeble defenses, scattering her ki to the setting sun and smashing into the woman head-on. She howled in anger and pain as she was tossed around the burning vortex of power like a glider in a hurricane, powerless to raise her arms and absorb or even deflect the searing energies clamping down on her. All she could do was cling to life as the twin attacks caromed around her, hurling her down to the wasteland below. Super 18 had time for one last word as the code that defined her programming was scrubbed clean. Bitch. When the light show had settled down, Naruto lowered his steaming hands and walk descended to 18's sprawled form. Red eyes stared unflinchingly down at her. Impossibly, she was still alive. He'd have to do something about that. Growling, he raised a hand, fingers curling inward, ready to smash her skull into fine powder. In the other, a Rasengan circled, prepared to finish the job. Be gone. Mercilessly, he cut down. Stop! Stop! 18 jerked upright, flinging up a hand to catch his, crying out at the strain produced from the effort. Naruto, it's me. I have control. She's gone. He had to give her credit. She was an adept actress in her own right, but he wasn't about to fall for something like that. Not after all she'd said and done. He would put 18 to rest and then, Kami willing, revive her with the Dragon Balls. Until then, this imposter did nothing but stoke the flames of his rage. You lie. He scowled, cracking the ice as she rolled aside. You'd say anything to live? Please. Lies! She reared back, an angry glint in her eye. Odd. He knew that look. It often meant he was about to get... I said cut it out, dumbass. Slap. Naruto jerked, his face stinging from the seemingly harmless hit. It was enough. Blinking, he shook his head. The red haze faded from his vision. Crimson hair faded back to black, the ebony tresses standing in contrast to his scarlet fur once more. Bleary, he gawped at her. 18. Scowling, she planted a hand on her hip. Do I have to slap you again? I'd prefer not. He stared. So, you got a new body out of this, huh? You like? She did a little twirl. Naruto managed a numb nod. Now that he didn't have to worry about a homicidal android trying to kill him, he could actually admire his wife. Very much so. Good. A tiny smirk played at the edges of her mouth. You need someone to keep you in line. Great. Oh, you... He snorted. Hey! She turned and found him staring towards the sky. Looks like we have company. Indeed, she could see the telltale streaks of Samui, Zangya, and their children. Even 17 was there amongst them. Doubtlessly, someone had obliterated Super 16 if they were here. He hoped. The idea of another super android out there was disquieting. I guess we won, huh? Naruto laughed. 18 stared back at him with watery eyes. Finally, relief came to claim her. It was over. Jiro's creations were dead and gone. All that remained was to destroy that damned supercomputer. A trifle, considering what they had been through in the last few hours. But now? 18 wanted nothing more than to embrace him. To have a few pre-Icus moments with her beloved before the chaos of what had happened settled down around her shoulders, before the rest of their little family pounced on him. Stepping forwards, she moved to pull him into a hug and relish the moment. Nothing happened. What? She had clearly pulled him into her arms, and yet... Nothing. She blinked, jerking back. I can't feel anything? I can't... Wait, you mean you can't feel? He reached out to touch her cheek. You can't feel this? She shook her head rapidly, terror shining in her eyes. Well, damn. The realization of what he was saying came with a wave of relief. Her shoulder dropped, the wetness of her hair trailing cold droplets on her shoulder. She felt a sick weight in her that threatened a bout of tears, but she kept it at bay. Still, it was important to her that he knew this wasn't what it could be. She couldn't feel him. She couldn't feel the cold on her skin, couldn't taste the ice on her tongue, couldn't smell the warm scent of ramen that usually pervaded him. She could only see and hear. She couldn't feel him. Then that dam burst. For the first time in a long time, 18 allowed herself to cry. Chapter 20. Feel, can't you do something? Shush and let me think. Bulma frowned down at the schematics, her weary hands ghosting over the parchment for what felt like the umpteenth time, searching for anything she might have missed under the watchful eye of Naruto and company. It felt like an effort in futility, probably because it was, but she wasn't about to tell that to an angry Super Saiyan. Naruto hadn't released his transformation yet. He still looked quite menacing with those eerie white gold eyes. 18 looked positively dour by comparison, her own blue orbs downcast, shoulders hunched. Bulma felt just a tiny pang of sympathy for the cyborg. She might have gotten a rocking new body out of the deal, but losing the ability to taste and touch, that just sucked. Say what you will about his methods, but the guy was a genius. Shaking her head, she pushed away from the table. I'd say she's about half as strong as you are now. The energy she absorbed hasn't dissipated either. It's like it's trapped in her circuits or something, a constant feedback loop. Man, Dr. Jiro really was a genius. I mean, look at what he did with the two of you. She waved at Naruto and Samui. He brought you back from the dead with just your DNA. And now, you're better than ever. With schematics like this, I could probably give you the super upgrade too, Samui. Blue eyes glittered. Do it. Although... Zangya snorted in agreement, her teal eyes snapping eastward. Good point. I wouldn't want to end up like him either. All eyes fell on the only other male in the room. Huh? What? Super 17 blinked at the sudden attention, pushing his long hair out of his face for what felt like the umpteenth time. Hey, it's not my fault I ended up like this. Might as well make good use of it, right? Besides, he proudly placed both hands on his hips and thrust out his chest. I look awesome. Cool. Hell, I feel like I could enter the tournament and wipe the floor with you guys. At Naruto's grunt, he quickly had to backpedal. Well, I might have some trouble with you. Just so. Zell, not understanding and thinking her uncle quite cool indeed, actually laughed. That was all it took to set the others off. Nay, Mama, Hinata blinked. Uncle's 17's being weird again. Weirdo, Atsui said. Definitely a weirdo. Akatane nodded her grave agreement. What? Don't talk to the strange man, kids, Samui sang. Zangya's hands formed a tend over her mouth, stifling a giggle. Hey! 17 cried. Bro, help me out here. Naruto tilted his head away, trying to hide the ghost of a smile. Sorry, you're on your own. Traitor! 18 bit back a retort at the levity, knowing her brother wasn't to blame for the unusual circumstances that led to his new form. The mad doctor's supercomputer had strove to do to him what had been done to her with disastrous results on the computer's part. Not only had the programming failed to take hold, but he'd broken loose almost immediately after the union with his cruel counterpart. 17 was 17 after all. He valued his friends, his freedom, and he showed no mercy to his enemies. Currently, the rusting remains of Super 16 and Dr. Jiro's supercomputer were occupying one giant, smouldering crater in the wilderness. Better, or worse in 18's opinion, he had escaped with no ill side effects. He could feel, and damn it all, she hated him for that. If she'd known he was keeping secrets, she would have hated him even more. 17 had decided not to make any mention of the 2 empty coffins he'd seen before he'd blown the lab sky high. The near loss was still wearing hard on everyone. That there might be more out there was not a pleasant thought, and he was determined to be ready. He would tell them, he told himself. Just not now. So there's nothing you can do? Naruto tried again, turning his attention back to Bulma. Nothing at all? Well, I wouldn't say that. Naruto twitched, his good mood evaporating. Blast it, woman. Do you have something or don't you? Whoa there. Don't get all Vegeta on me. Bulma laughed genially, fanning her face. It's too early for that. Bulma. All right, maybe, she said at last, hitting on something by her smile. Naruto, you gave her that huge blast at the end of the battle, right? 18 gave him a glacial look, and the scientist snickered. Ooh, she probably didn't like that, did she? No, the cyborg folded her arms. She did not. Naruto blanched, finding himself powerless beneath the weight of his wife's stare. In my defense, sweetheart, your psychosis nearly killed me. Not my fault. Blame the bitch. Whom I deleted, by the way. She effortlessly poked a hole in his defense with her razor-sharp logic and a finger to the chest. Then I told you I was myself, and you still blasted me. Come to think of it, I believe you said you owed me a favor. Right, girls? Zangya was physically fighting off laughter by now, her shoulders shaking as she tried not to let it show. Samui's mirth was more restrained, evident only by the slight twitch of her lips and the way her eyes shone. Good point. I think he should have dish duty. For a month. Hey, laundry too. Zangya chirped. Oi, what? Have you smelled your clothes after a workout? Her nose crinkled. Blech! By contrast, the children simply watched, confused. The reborn shinobi glanced at 17 and found his brother merely smiling, content to leave him hanging as he'd been hung. Yep, he wasn't winning this. All right, all right, all right. Naruto threw up his arms, conceding the fight. We've established that I'm a terrible husband. Can we please get back to the matter at hand? 18's scowl softened at that. Perhaps she'd been a little too hard on him. Naruto, Her hand moved of its own accord, cupping his cheek to show that she was sorry. Nothing, only numbness. She flinched slightly and withdrew. What do we need to do? She asked. Try giving her a bit of your ki, Naruto. Bulma prodded, launching into scientific jargon almost immediately. I'm thinking it might have something to do with the flux capacitors generating a reverse feedback look into her nerve endings, and by absorbing and expending your energy, she just might remove the blockage all that excess power initially created, without too many ill effects. That went way over their heads. Just do it. When he extended a hand forward, however, she snapped at him. No, not like that in your base state. As a Super Saiyan. The whiskered warrior balked, but reverted regardless. All right, here goes. Ready? 18 nodded, gulping slightly as he turned to face her. Ready. All right, everyone out. Samui barked, recognizing the glint in their eyes. Let's give these two some time alone. When the kids began to complain, she and Zangya ushered them outside, 17 bringing up the rear. It was a kinder gesture 18 thought, but her attention remained fixated firmly elsewhere. Bulma remained, fiddling with equipment and other strange devices that she didn't understand. Still, her husband lingered. Doubt flickered across his face. "Oi, this is dangerous, Databio. I don't want to hurt you. Just do it already," she muttered. "I'll be fine." "Okay." Naruto phased smoothly into his first transformation and laid both hands upon either shoulder, those warm green eyes gazing adoringly into her blue. Then he began sharing energy with his wife, gently at first, then more liberally, until the slim beauty was glowing with a golden white aura. She looked something like an angel, her hair fluttering upward in an unseen breeze, blue eyes green, her body extremely stiff. "I'm feeling something," she managed to say through clenched teeth. "Keep going." Naruto frowned, his brow darkening. "Fine." Huh! Ethereal blue sparks of ki danced into existence as he jumped into the ascended state, his hair and face gaining a more jagged, severe edge. 18 went rigid the moment he changed, her mouth opening in a silent O of surprise as a renewed reservoir of energy filled her veins. Now she felt something else as she stared into those guarded orbs. Pain. An uncomfortable itching sensation crawled beneath her skin as her body worked to regulate the energy flowing into her. Not enough, nowhere near enough. Pain was all well and good, but that wasn't what she wanted to feel. She wanted everything back. Her hands shot upright, grabbing him by the arms in demand. "Naruto." A vein bulged in his temple, his eyes taking on an almost savage glint. "Rah!" It was the first time she'd seen Super Saiyan 3 up close, and quite frankly, it frightened her. The subsequent force of his ascendance launched Bulma backwards into the sensor bank, but Lazuli scarcely noticed, consumed as she was in the storm. Even then, Naruto never released her, never broke eye contact. It was the first time she'd seen Super Saiyan 3 up close, and quite frankly, it frightened her. But then that fear was wiped away as she took his energy. Super Saiyan 2 was savage. This was raw. Golden wings of pure, nascent energy spread across her back to push at the corners of the room, birthed by their shared aura. Her skin was suddenly sensitive now, blisteringly hot to the touch, and she squirmed in his grasp, her fingers twitching wildly as she dug them into his forearms. Dimly, she was aware of her brother stepping inside and hauling Bulma from the room. Good thing. This time, they both screamed. Super Saiyan 4 roared into existence with a deafening thunderclap, encapsulating them in a sphere of saffron flame as the floor sank, cratered, beneath their feet. In that instant, 18 felt something give inside of her, an unseen, unknown barriers yielding as this primal power coursed through. Naruto drew her close, the full of his being flowing through her. More than just energy met hers, memory, experiences, love. An emotion so powerful, so intense, so mind-bendingly hers that, coupled with the ki, it just meant release. Yow! Sensation jolted through her like a live wire, as though her entire body had been asleep this entire time, having finally awoken. Her ki flared with such violent force that it flattened everything in the room, ripping steel end from end, savaging equipment, destroying everything in its path. Everything but Naruto. Golden eyes gazed back at her through the outpouring, calm and focused, staid and bold. Even when the four walls of the room fell down around their heads and the ceiling opened up to the bright morning light, he never once let go over her, nor did his eyes leave hers. When at last it was over and she could think again, could feel again, 18 was slightly startled to find tears streaming down her cheeks. She loved him. She always had from the very beginning, but to actually feel that love, that rich, heady feeling coursing through her veins, it was earth-shaking. "Hey!" He grinned down at her. Then that grin faltered and he stepped away, his aura still shining brightly around them. What? I think there were a few, side effects. Naruto was fighting very hard not to smile, but Lazuli could sense the good intentions and the spike of desire lurking behind it. That was new. To actually feel those emotions, experience them as they were born, it made her happier than she'd ever been. Then she caught sight of herself in a broken shard of glass amidst the debris. "Oh, crap!" Her jaw clicked open. Blazing eyes of molten gold glared back at her in astonishment, her once long, smooth, flaxen locks now dark as a crow's feather, stiff and jagged against her head, not unlike that of this super scion holding her. And the wings. They were still there, thrumming gently in her aura, ebon feathers of energy spread to either side. She gave them a look, marvelling at the new appendages for an instant, wondering why they were still their own existence after that last explosion. Curious, she stretched the muscles in her back, and the wings beat with them, creating a heavy gust. Naruto whistled. Wow. It probably won't last, she hummed, stretching. But it's an improvement. Yeah. Oh. Her eyes widened slightly as his inquisitive fingers stroked one of those wings. 18 found herself purring. Sensitive. Bulma did say something strange might happen, and there we go. With a soft thump of sound, the strange transformation abated, leaving her as she'd been. Her lips pursed into a small frown, almost disappointed to be rid of the power she'd possessed. She could still feel his hands on her, a gentle noose wrapping around her hip as though it belonged there. Guess it doesn't last. Although, the look she gave him was decidedly racy. This might. 18's mouth closed on his hungrily, savouring each sensation. Everything had come back all at once, the lightning-like tingles shooting down her spine as he touched her. The warm wetness of his mouth and his tongue against hers. That delicious tingle spreading between her legs when she wrapped them around his waist. The sound of his breath, his groan as she began unfastening his jacket, fingers trailing fire down his chest, his own tugging at her bosom, ghosting down her skirt. Mama! Both blondes jerked back as if they'd been scolded. Hinata was staring owlishly up at them, her pale blue eyes regarding each of her parents curiously, with all the innocence of a child. Mama, she asked aloud, why is Papa taking your clothes off? They couldn't rightly help themselves after that. They burst out laughing. 18 laughed softly. What do you think? Should we tell her? No! She'll have to learn about it sooner or later. Naruto sputtered. No, but yes. No, but yes. I mean, no as in no, but yes as in yes. No, as in yes. So that's a no then? Ah! A week passed, and then, in the blink of an eye, the tournament arrived. 194 individuals entered the adult section of the World Martial Arts Tournament. There were 16 spots. Of those 16 places there, one was posthumously reserved for Naruto himself. The remaining places would quickly be snatched up by the rest of the Z-fighters and others. Goku, Vegeta, Broly, Samui, Egthene, Zangia, Piccolo, and Krillin, chief amongst them. Even Hercule managed to squeak in at the last. Of course I was there too. The champion's belt belonged to no one. It was up for grabs with the Zeni. The junior division's lineup was no less thrilling. Hinata, Atsui, Akatane, and Zell would be entering on Naruto's end, despite vigorous protesting from the latter. Goku mightily encouraged Guten to do his best. For Broly, Bruizel, and Fascia. Vegeta remained smug for Trunks and Bra, whilst a disconsolate Krillin quietly pleaded to the gods that Kisa would somehow win the day. Ah, I remember it fondly, if only for that brief happy time. It would be the perfect place to test their limits, to go even further beyond. It was meant to be a day for frolicking and fighting, a day in which the weight of the world would be momentarily forgotten as the world's greatest fighters pitted themselves against one another in a contest of strength. But it was not to be. You see, on that day, something happened, and even so earth-shaking profound that it shattered the very fabric of reality, taking the planet to the very precipice of destruction. You think I'm talking about Majin Buu, don't you? He had his own part to play in the chaos that followed. But no, I'm speaking of something much worse. Yes, it was on that fateful day, the last day I saw Uzumaki Naruto a human being, alive and well, that it all fell apart. That was the day we lost everything. That was the day everything changed. Chapter 21. We Are Future, the time machine whirred and sputtered as it blurred into existence in the wasteland. Worn and pitted, battered and scarred from battle, it looked as though it had just come from a war zone. And it had. Acrid black smoke bled from its cracked hull in great, thick gouts, wobbling and weaving wildly as its pilot desperately struggled to set it down. When it finally landed on two of its four legs, the craft promptly crashed to the ground. A deep, rattling shake wound its way up from the device, shaking the very foundations of the rock upon which it had landed. For a precarious moment, all was still. And then, boom! Hot! A young man's yelp echoed through the canyon as the time machine exploded violently, expelling him in a coffin of fire and smoke onto the floor bathed in flames. He would have made quite the sight flailing about on the ground as he did, frantically patting at his flaming posterior. By the time he'd regained some semblance of sense, his ride was little more than a smoking ruin. Ooh, boy. Its occupant groaned, waving the smoke away from his face. Old girl's dead as a doorknob. Guess I won't be going home anytime soon. Hope Bulma figured out time travel by now. Ah, well, at least I made it. Yosh! He smacked his whiskered cheeks, grinning like a madman. Guess I still have some luck, after all. Squinting against the harsh sunlight, he shaded his face with a hand, whistling quietly. So, this is the past. Not much to look at, Databasa. Were one to look at him, they might think he bore a rather remarkable resemblance to Uzumaki Naruto. A resemblance? Yes. A very keen resemblance. Bright blue eyes, a pair of whiskers doubling each cheeky, floppy blonde hair that couldn't seem to decide whether it wanted to hang flat over his forehead or stand spiky. Orange boots and black, baggy pants and a tattered scarlet shirt, his battered coat a shining beacon of dazzling, if smudged white against the dismal backdrop of the arid wastes. These were the things that defined him. Perhaps the most noticeable feature of him was the giant weapons that lay strapped to his back, a pair of tools long since forgotten to the world. Not that they'd been any use against that thing, but perhaps they could be of some use. Here. His eyes glanced across them briefly, making sure they were still there before looking to his wrist. Around his neck, a single metal bolt jingled from a black cord, bouncing against the firm plane of his chest now as its owner glanced down. All right then, let's see. Now those eyes bulged as he glanced upon his watch. His mother had told him it would calibrate to the whatever era he landed in, and while she wasn't an expert of it by any means, he trusted her word with his life. And what he saw there was unpleasant, to say the least. Wait a minute, the date's wrong. Today is, oh crap. Crap. I'm late. Very late. I didn't think I'd be cutting it close. This was the day that everything changed. In hindsight, he would have preferred to have landed a few years in the past, but beggars couldn't be choosers after all. It was a miracle he'd made it at all after that last attack. His enemy wouldn't be satisfied with its defeat, he knew, just as he knew it had no way of following him to the past. Nevertheless, he was here, in this pivotal moment that plunged the world into darkness. He knew at once that he didn't have much time, yet in the same vein he felt almost giddy, excited by comparison. Ah! His ears twitched as, that's a massive energy signature. Gotta be him! Good. I still have time. Blue eyes flashed green. His hair, already a stark shade of blonde, became even more so, standing on edge. Violent blue sparks skittered around his body, his slanted eyes seeking the Kai's origin. Locking onto it, he roared up into the sky, trailing golden light in his wake. Uzumaki Bolt, the child of Naruto and Videl, laughed. Naruto, huh? He grinned brightly, his words lost in the searing rush of air around him. My old man. I've heard all about him from Mom, but I really hope he doesn't kill me. Why do you insist of this life of mediocrity? You again? Go away. You say that, but do you mean it really? There's so much darkness within you. Why bother with the facade? You're stronger than all those fools combined and put together, and yet you tether yourself down with these foolish bonds. Wouldn't it be easier just to sever them? You're just an illusion, and if not, then merely a voice in a head. You have no power here. Get out. Am I now? We'll see. Get out. Naruto scowled and banished the voice from his mind, leaving him with his innermost thoughts. Those visions again. They'd been pestering him for the last week now, snatches of memory that really weren't memory at all. Sights and sounds that he couldn't quite recognize, yet somehow knew all the same. They'd become increasingly vivid today of all days. That, and this lingering sense of unease, had haunted him since he'd first awoken this morning. Annoying. It was almost enough to sour his mood. Almost, but not quite. We're going to the tournament, Tilda. Because this, that silly, chipper little voice, warmed Uzumaki Naruto in more ways than the visions could ever chill him. Bright orange curls bounced before his vision. Tournament Tild! Well, that one seems excited. Samui laughed, leaning on his arm. Of course she is, Zangya preened. She's my kid, after all. 18 merely snorted, her eyes roaming the proving grounds. Yeah, she's definitely your daughter, all right. The alien twitched. How so? Well, she's silly, sweet ditzy. What was that? Zangia transformed so fast it was almost instant for Naruto, her long hair burning a bright scarlet trail behind her as her teal skin flushed an unholy green. In the next, she was face to face with the super android, her aura a fiery red blaze around them both, sparks igniting between their eyes. You got something you want to say, huh? You heard me. 18 shot back, smiling. What? I was just pointing out her better attributes. It sounded like you were insulting me. Maybe I was, the blonde snarked. You want to make something of it? Of course you can't do much with a power like that. Naruto, do something! Zangia cried. He took one look at his wives' faces and decided against it. Nope. With an extra helping of nope? All kinds of nope? He wasn't getting anywhere near that. Yeah, I'm staying out of this. If you two want to fight, save it for the ring. Very cool, Samui agreed, giving him a brief squeeze. Hey! Said Blonde barely beat back a smile as Zell simply continued her little tune, oblivious to it all, her soft voice lilting in falsetto as she swung a stick to and fro overhead, skipping merrily. Such was her voice that the blue-skinned girl drew startled looks from passerby and contestants alike, the soft siren song of her melody captivating any who came near. The youngest she might be, but she was certainly the most energetic. The whole family had come out for the occasion, even Zangia, despite her increasingly obvious pregnancy, which made him wonder. If she was going to be fighting, why on earth was she wearing that blue yukata? So, he tried, seeking to alleviate the tension. Who do you think's going to win the junior division? Statement, we will win. Atsui and Akatane, the girls resplendent in their own dark violet guy, both spoke in their unique monotone, the looks on their placid faces making it seem as though they could take on the whole world and win it all. Naruto imagined they could. They were his and Samui's kids after all. Honestly, they even gave him a little trouble when they fused into a kitsu. Nope, Zell hummed, twirling in her little white sundress. I'm gonna win. Mama. Hinata sighed forlornly down at 18 from her place on the blonde's slim shoulders. Fighting them is boring. When do we get to fight? Naruto preened at the sight of her. Ah, his little star. Ever a daddy's girl wearing a sleeveless orange and black gi like him. Kami bless her. It almost pained him to stick his eldest in the younger division with all the other kids. 18 chose that moment to end her standoff with Zangia, a rare frown marring the beautiful features of her face. I find it funny that you haven't mentioned the actual tournament yet. She did not fail to notice the bead of sweat trickling down her husband's brow either. Got you. Hey, it's not like we need the zini after I stomped Cell. You've been slacking off, haven't you? Ugh, maybe a little, Naruto admitted, wincing. However, a hand swung around, swatting her on the rear with a decisive smack. Anyone else would have squealed like a struck pig. The super android simply sought his eyes in disbelief, unable to do anything other than gawp. The whiskered warrior felt his grin grow. I beat you, didn't I? He murmured, lips brushing the outer lobe of her ear. Both before and after. His lover coloured, her cheeks burning a bright atomic crimson. Even she had to admit defeat there. But teasing her like that around the kids? That just wasn't fair. Thankfully, something diverted his attention before he could arouse her even further. A very large, glowing something getting very close now, very close indeed, and a crap. Well, that's a big blast, was 18's first thought as the massive crimson sphere shot down towards them from the heavens, screaming wrath and fury. But it's red? Now who do we know who— Incoming! Naruto's golden-clad hand shot up as the rest of them dove for cover, his palm closing around, then crushing the giant sphere as though it were a toy ball in his hand. The subsequent backlash blasted a 3-foot-deep crater under his booted feet and nearly drove him to a knee, his now teal eyes glaring angrily upward as the Super Saiyan glowered at his enemy. Oi now, that wasn't nice. Who the hell do you think you— Ah? His words trailed off into emptiness as he beheld their assailant, white coat jacket fluttering fiercely in the breeze. Wide teal eyes stared down at him, a 4-fingered hand missing the pinky still extended from the blast, arm trembling. But Naruto was not focused on that. His attention was locked on the aura, the eyes, the hair furious sapphire sparks surging around the youth's body. He was looking at another Super Saiyan, "What's wrong, old man?" a sneering voice sniped. "Is that all you've got?" And it looked like him. Bolt felt the killer intent and braced himself for an assault as soon as those words left his mouth. "Ooh, boy." He raised an arm in defense as his progenitor stood slowly, a snarl leaping from his pursed lips. Mum always said the only way to get his attention was to hit him where it hurt. And I've done that. Oh man, I've gone and poked the hornet's nest this time, Databasa. But first, I need to get him away from the others, and it's not like he'll listen otherwise. Fuck. But if he's this strong, we might stand a chance. I need to see it for myself. An upswing of ki was his only warning as his father jumped into the ascended scion form. Despite the terror gripping at Bolter's chest, he felt himself becoming excited. How long had it been since he'd had a good fight? A true fight. Not the slaughter that thing inflicted upon his family and friends. But this was more than that. He was fighting his own father, Uzumaki Naruto, the man he'd never gotten to know, the man who had sacrificed himself to slow the menace and bought him the years he needed to grow into the young man he was today, stood only a few yards away. Yes, excited indeed. Now! Step back. That was all Samui heard before the duo vanished into hyperspeed. Another Super Saiyan? She groaned, rubbing her head. Great. Well, at least it's a change from Jiro. I was beginning to think he'd sent out another android. All right, status check. Everyone in one piece? Varying groans and muttered curses greeted her. A ways behind her, 18 hadn't even been ruffled in the slightest. That was a little worrying. She'd thought she'd caught up to her fellow blonde in terms of power after the upgrades. Granted, she was keeping them veiled beneath an illusion, but it was still a little disheartening to think that she might be stronger. What makes you so sure he is one? Zangya muttered crossly, standing with some aid from her daughter. Golden aura. Bright eyes? Super strength. I think it's obvious. The only question is, who is he? 18 spoke suddenly, making herself known. And why does he look like Naruto? Clone? Samui offered. Not possible. The energy's too different. A son? Samui and Zangya both bristled. Not ours. A silence passed between the three women, their children still staring wide-eyed, up at the fight raging overhead. 18 was the one to break it. Well then, the answer's obvious. You can't beat placid blue eyes shifted to the right. There they are. Then she vanished. Thoom! A cataclysmic shock shook the air moments later as the newcomer found himself violently ejected from the battle. 18 lowered her fist, looking quite pleased with herself as she watched his body dig a large trench into the earth, skidding along for miles across the island. You boys, and your drawn-out fights, she hummed. Need some help? Naruto grunted, still eyeing the receding line of smoke in the distance. I told you he's mine. Hey, she turned, catching him in mid-flight. You can't expect me to let you have all the The attack came from nowhere. It wasn't even a blow, Samui thought. One moment 18 had been hovering before Naruto. The next, it was as if a giant, invisible hand ripped her out of the sky and flung her down into the plaza. Her motionless body struck 3 booths before lying still at last, prone and inert amidst the wreckage. She did not rise again. Now it was the newcomer who stood in her place, his bright eyes leering down. Stay out of this, sweet cheeks. The lookalike grumbled at her resting place. Not here to fight you. Samui balked at the ease with which he'd dispatched her. For a moment there, just a moment, the lookalike's power had skyrocketed, eclipsing 18's with ease. But now it was back to normal. And his eyes? They were different, angry and rimmed purple, not the eyes of a Super Saiyan, but the eyes of something else. And that something frightened her. Tell your stooges to stay out of this. Naruto's doppelganger snapped. I'm here to fight you, not weaklings like the... Naruto roared in response. It was the first time she'd heard him that angry. Oh, you little shit! With a roar, he jumped to the next level, a wave of golden spikes cascading behind his back. He'd achieved true mastery of the form, none of that 5-minute powering up bullshit he'd been forced to endure before. That aside, however, it meant he could bring the full of its power to bear almost immediately. And they felt it. Not cool. Not cool at all, Naruto. Samui grimaced as Scarlet bred into her husband's aura, his already jagged tresses standing even higher on his head. You can't fight here. You'll wreck everything. In response, their attacker simply raised his aura even higher. It wasn't long before the very ground at their feet began to shake, tiles lifting themselves into the air, barely visible platforms heralding the power of both warriors. Moments later, they turned to dust as the nameless warrior also ascended to the third form. 2 Super Saiyan 3s! Her mind balked at the thought. Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. Come on, Pops, the newcomer barked. Surely that wasn't a touch of nervousness in his voice. Loudly, fists clenching as he batted aside an energy bolt. I know it. You're stronger than that. You have to be. It's not even funny. I'll laugh when you're dead. The 2 Super Saiyans barreled into the sky, trading blows at a blistering pace. Arms locked, grappling furiously, head jarring against one another with enough force to draw blood. Stop going easy on me. Show me you can beat me, the stranger goaded. Transform. Become a Super Saiyan 4. How do you know about that? And then 18 was simply there. Nice trick, she growled, fingers bunching in the teen's long hair from behind, safely out of reach. Let me show you another one. Naruto, let go! To Samui's amazement, the whiskered warrior obeyed, and 18 all but spun away, yanking the howling Saiyan with her. Hey! Bolt shouted as she began to spin him in a solid circle. Let go of me! Fast. I mean it. Faster. I'll hurt you if I have to. Fastest. Okay, that's fucking dizzy. Stop it. I'm gonna. Dragon throw. Miles away, Krillin frowned. Hey, Marin. What is that? His slightly ditzy wife, their darling 6-year-old daughter Kisa, nestled firmly in her arms and ready for the tournament, glanced away. What is what? That. A shadow fell over his face from where he stood on the tournament grounds. Shading his eyes, he squinted up at the sudden blot on the sun, and suddenly found his face splattered with projectile vomit. Marin squealed. Oh my god, what? Gross! With that, the Krillin-owned counter went up by 1 that day. 3 warrior clashed, and the clouds split around them. More blows were traded than the human heart could beat in a lifetime. An eternity of blocks, blows, and counters. Samui was the only one who could see them at all now, and she was beginning to fear the worse. For all their strength and impeccable teamwork, the stranger was a match for Naruto and 18. Naruto was still holding the lion's share of his power back in order to coordinate with his fellow blonde, but anyone could see a glimmer of frustration shining through those eyes. He was losing his temper, himself in the battle. Finally, it was the newcomer who faltered, as Naruto and 18 closed on him, his scowling face crumpling around one of her bruising elbows. That was all it took for Naruto to gain the upper hand, a double-handed Rasengan violently whirring forth from his hands to smash the young Super Saiyan towards the ground. 18 pounced into next instant, a double hammer fist crushing the young man into the soil, Naruto holding him there. 18 remained all but livid, her jaw lay set in a furious scowl, her blue-white eyes nearly golden with fury. No one touches my family. Naruto did more than that. To her dismay, her husband wrapped both of his hands around the newcomer's throat and began to squeeze with deadly force. Ugh! The youth gasped and fought with all his might, thrashing violently. But despite his incredible strength, he found himself swiftly outmatched and overwhelmed by the sheer savagery of the older Saiyan. When he tried to rise, the blonde simply stomped him in the stomach. Once, twice, 3 times. His ribs smashed, face bloody, the boy began to weaken. His face began to turn blue. Who are you? Fuck off! Naruto squeezed harder. Answer me or die. His voice was ice, glacial and cruel. He's going to kill him. Samui realized all once, shading children from the scene unfolding before them with the help of Zangia. 18 looked almost pleased, making no move to interfere. But remarkably, the threat of impending death actually broke through the stubborn bulwark of the asphyxiating Saiyan. Bolt, the teenager gasped, eyes bulging. Puppy? A snarl was the answer. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't end you. Because I wasn't trying to do any serious damage to your family, came the waspish reply. I needed to test you. You have a funny way of testing me, pup, Naruto growled, tightening his grip. Maybe I should kill you for that. They were in no danger. Bolt snapped, his vision fading. I just wanted to see if you were the real deal. Looks like you are. Unable to sustain the massive energy required for the form any longer, he dropped out of Super Saiyan 3, losing all hope of resistance. Yet still those eyes, his eyes, bored into him, pleading. You're not a murderer, Naruto. Don't do this. Not a killer. Naruto jerked back as though he'd been all but shot. No, not a murderer. What had come over him? Just, who are you? The boy grinned, whiskered cheeks pinching as he flashed his pearly whites in a fierce smile. In their base forms, he could see the resemblance. The young man looked just like him, the only difference being his hair and 2, rather than 3 whiskers upon each cheek. He grinned, a flash of devilish amusement dancing through those bright blue orbs. Like I said, the name's Bolt. God, that's gonna bruise. The words were a dry wheeze. He snapped off a weary salute on the ground. So, thanks for not killing me, Dad. Nice to finally meet ya, Databasa. Can I get up now? There was an awful silence. Then, what, son? These were but 2 of the cries that went up at the unexpected revelation. The children were slightly more excitable. We have a big brother. Well, not quite, since I'm from the future, oops. Bolt sputtered, turning red. I probably shouldn't have said that either. Gah! This is way they shouldn't center. I'm no good at keeping secrets. Naruto found himself heaving a sigh. Time travel. Why did it always have to be time travel? All right, I can see where this is going. Why don't you go and sign us up? I'll be along in a bit. 18 shot him a hurt look. Naruto. Just go, okay. They got... When he turned back to Bolt, the young man was all but pleading. I'm sorry, he wailed. Please don't tell the others, I shouldn't have even told you. But you know, multiverse theory and all. Grah! I'm getting off track here. Look, I really need your help. This may sound strange, but whatever you do, you can't leave this tournament. Absolutely not, no matter what. The fate of the world depends on it. I can't leave. Why would I do that? Well, there are 2 immensely powerful beings here today, Mira and Towa. His face contorted painfully, as though he were visiting a painful memory. In my time, they caught Goku unawares and killed him. I'd tell you more, but that's all I know. You sacrificed yourself to seal them, but then Boo was freed, followed by that man, and they destroyed everything. They're free in my era, and they've all but killed most of us off. I'm helpless against them. Boo I could handle, but those 3... Naruto yawned. That was it? That was the dangerous threat? One question. Is that man you were talking about named Madara? Huh. You know Madara. Annoying guy, just can't seem to stay dead. Keeps popping up everywhere. That guy. No. I mean, there is a man named Madara in my time, but he's, well, it's complicated. I guess you could say he's on our side. No worries then. Thanks for the warning. I'll be on my guard then. What? No, you need to... Kid, I'm the strongest being alive right now. Galaxies away. Bills sneezed in his sleep, flopped around, rolled over, and dozed once more. God, Super Saiyan, God. And trust me when I say I won't let anything happen to the Earth. This place is my home. My friends are here. My family is here. I won't let them die. No, you don't. Whatever he might have said died violently as some called out to them. Hey, Naruto! Blue eyes cut back toward the crow, singling out a lone individual making their way towards them. So you made, if after all. He raised a hand in lazy greeting as Videl sprinted up to them, her twin braids bouncing from side to side as she ran, her body clad in varying hues of white and pink. Huh, so she hadn't cut her hair after all. Bolt went stiff as a board. Mom? Naruto felt his ears twitch, his expression rioting from calm to chaotic. Mom? Wait a minute. Me? And her? No way. When did that happen? I mean, I can see the appeal, but still. He only barely managed to control his expression at the last minute, schooling his face into an old rictus of impassivity and stoicism. Well, look who it is. Before she could reach them, however, a large figure all but bounded over her. A familiar war cry filled the air. Uzumaki! His hand shot up to meet the giant's fist even as it met his, knuckle meeting knuckle, and neither yielding. And despite the tension warring in his chest, he felt himself smile. Broly, I see you haven't changed much. Technically untrue. The larger Saiyan had acquired a new style of dress in the years since Naruto had seen him last. Most interesting, he wore a dressed-down version of Saiyan armor, styled after Vegeta's Sans the gloves, and with those hideous gold boots, the red fabric open and loose at the chest to accommodate his transformations. The tail didn't escape his notice either. Well, One more scion who was proud of his heritage couldn't possibly hurt, right? Right? Broly merely grunted in satisfaction, lowering his arm. Strong as ever, I see. Then he noticed Bolt. Who is this? He looks like you. Long story. Naruto shot a withering glance at his progeny, and to his credit, Bolt looked shameful. He'll be explaining it in detail later, won't you, boy? Bolt managed another nod, suddenly intensely interested in both his shoelaces and the floor all at once. He was trying very hard not to look at the rapidly approaching Videl, to no avail. There you are, she grinned. I knew you'd show up. You do know you have no chance of beating me, right? Naruto deadpanned. You don't know that! I've had weeks of special training with Gohan. Naruto and Broly exchanged a speculative look. Special training, you say? The larger scion rumbled. Naruto grinned trollishly beside him. And what, pray tell, did this training involve, Bolt groaned. My mother. That's my mother they're joking about. Atomic Red couldn't even begin to describe Videl's face. Nah, not like that, idiot. He's already got a girlfriend. So he finally did the deed. Naruto suddenly felt the unmanly urge to find Gohan and start espousing to him about the flames of youth. Odd. Guy must have rubbed off on him a little. That was a disturbing thought, actually, now that he thought about it. If he started wearing green spandex, he swore he'd lobotomize himself. So, ignoring her curious remark, he turned his attention back to the brute before him. There a reason you up and swung at me before? I knew you'd block that. Broly grunted, grinning, dark eyes alight with excitement. I just wanted to test your strength before our match. Our match? Naruto felt his own smile inch upward. You think we'll be fighting early? Oh, we will fight, and I will prove, once and for all, that I'm stronger than you. Rival. Fine by me, he shot back, striding ahead of his long-lived adversary. I'll kick your ass any day of the week. Not if I do it first. Naruto laughed, rubbing her head. Oh, you're sweet. You don't stand an Ice Cube's chance in hell, but you're sweet. Tell you what, if we do fight, I won't transform. Sound fair? Her grin was infectious. You might regret that. Only if you make me. Bolt followed, feeling a glimmer of hope in his heart. Perhaps there was hope for them after all, despite his screw-up. Maybe, just maybe, things would turn out all right in this era after all. Hey, there they are! For what felt like the third time that day, the ancient ninja nearly gave himself whiplash spinning around. Goku. Naruto. How you been? They clasped hands, shaking firmly. Good, I guess. Ready for the tournament? He had now want of money. Naruto did. But hey, he had a reputation to maintain. I don't know, it might be too easy. Easy, eh? Just how strong have you become when I wasn't looking, Goku? Naruto wondered. He gave no voice to it, however. Oi, you seriously love to fight, don't you? All he got was a grin. Sure do. Speaking of love, Naruto waggled his eyebrows at Gohan. Poor boy looked like he wanted to shrink into his gi. Rather unlikely given how tight it was. By contrast, Lime looked positively radiant on his arm. The blonde beamed happily at the budding romance. He would have been content to watch that all today, had not another member of the Sun family tugged on his sleeve. Where's Hinata? Goten asked. Oh-ho? Might be another crush here too. Oh, they went on ahead. Sure enough, the others were up ahead with their families. And one very important guest. Well, at least in his mind. What's up, Veggie? The proud prince coloured at the mere mention of that insufferable nickname. Don't be so informal with me, android. I'll turn you into scrap. A few years ago, he might have lost his head for that. Now Naruto simply sighed and pounded him on the back with a heavy hand, sending the shorter man stumbling a step forward. Hey, I'm not mostly organic by this point. Hand me. Zell giggled softly, waving her now signed form in the air. Can we start fighting now? Bra, all of 6 years old and on the verge of hitting something to vent her frustrations, groaned. She'd been stuffed into a blue cyan suit, reminiscent of the one Vegeta had worn during their battles with Cell, her bright purple hair bound back in a braid. Wound-tight, just like her personality. Oi, 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 why is this idiot so eager to lose? Boink! That's my daughter you're talking about, Zangya growled, lowering her now steaming fist. Bra gave her a flat look. What was that for? Trunks quietly face-palmed. Sis. Brussel and Fascia said nothing on the matter. They simply allowed a smug launch to lead them straight to the registration. Akatane and Atsui followed shortly thereafter, with Hinata. the latter despondent that they had to fight the children while their parents had free rein in the adult competition. Guten was left entirely in the dark about it all. What just happened? Guys, Krillin muttered, look who just showed up. Oh, speak of the devil! The moment Mark Satan saw Naruto in that crowd, he made a beeline for the man who'd ruined him. Well, there you are. I thought you weren't gonna show up, coward. Everyone, even the children, recognized the bluff before it had left the former champion's lips. Any single one of them could have easily knocked the flamboyant grandstander out with a simple flick of their finger. Finally, the silence was broken by a singular word, uttered by the legendary Saiyan. Scum. What was that, punk? Oh? I'm sorry, Broly, did he say something? I thought that was the wind just now. Naruto snarked. Just you wait, you fakers. I'll show you, I will. Naruto cocked his head aside, weathering Hercules' angry rant with a quiet stoicism born of years of changing diapers. Eventually those words dissolved into an endless animal bleat. He imagined the former champion as little more than a snarling dog, all bark. No bite. When his tirade finally ended, when he'd huffed and puffed himself dry, when his throat was hoarse from shouting and he could scream no more, Naruto laughed. It was a deep, throaty sound. Then he smiled. It was not a pleasant thing, that smile, Videl thought. Do you know what they say about dogs who bark the loudest? The sudden question caught the champ flat-footed. What? I'll tell you, they're the weakest. Why you… Save it for the ring, champ. The last word dripped with derision as he leaned forward. Then we'll see who the fake is. To her credit, Videl tried to defuse the situation. Naruto gave her points for trying at the least. He knew it was doomed to failure, but still, points were given. Come on, Daddy, don't be like that. Hercule purpled with rage. Videl! You know him. The female fighter raised her hands in defense. Dad, just calm down. It's not what it looks like. I told you couldn't date a guy unless he's stronger than me. Videl felt a slow flush crawl up her neck, spreading to her cheeks and other places. Date? Daddy, what are you… Naruto scoffed quietly. Well, on that note, I'll leave you to it. See you in the ring. As fate would have it, he'd see him the very next round. Chapter 23. Black and White. Ring out! Tilda! The announcer's cry reverberated across the stadium with the force of a thunderclap, shattering the stunned silence like so much glass. All eyes swung from to the twitching form of one Mark Satan still laying prone at the other end of the arena, his head sporting an ugly red welt, and turned back to the stern figure who'd put him there with a single punch. There hadn't been anything special about it. One moment the champion came rushing in, barreling forward headlong, ready to wring his neck, and the next, well, we have a winner, ladies and gentlemen. Naruto advances. The crowd held its breath a moment more. Then all hell broke loose. Some denounced Naruto as a fraud, a fake, a cheater. Others, a sizable larger group than his detractors, hooted their appreciation. A few dared call for his disqualification. One dared to hurl a bag of popcorn at him, the kernels of which found themselves flung right back in his face as though swept up by an invisible wind. Naruto's girls were positively thrilled. They and other children chattered happily amongst themselves, each eager for their own turn in the ring. Videl barely heard or saw any of it. What the hell was that? The daughter of Satan gawped, eyes round as saucers. The railing bent beneath her grasp as she leaned forward, looking all of a moment from flinging herself off the balcony to rescue him. It was only Lime's restraining hand on her shoulder that prevented her from doing so, and even then she rounded on him, startled. Don't, she pleaded with her. It's over now. How did he do that? She demanded to know. I didn't even see him move. Lime tactfully didn't mention that she had, but only just. She was still a human after all. Even Gohan's training in the Kaioken could only do so much. Of course you didn't, Broly murmured of Videl. You're inferior. The long-haired lass bristled. What's that supposed to mean? Krillin swore quietly. Oh, crap. Broly, Gohan warned, don't. Too late. It means what you think it means. The legendary Super Saiyan smiled, turned to Videl and offered a low rumble that only distantly resembled laughter. It was not a pleasant smile. You are weak. Your father was and is weak. My rival is neither of those things. What did you expect from him, girl? Pity? that your father would be coddled? That is not the Saiyan way. He was lacking and received his just due. Videl opened her mouth to refute such an argument, to deny what he'd meant by that, and snapped it shut when she saw the gleam in the large man's eyes. Something in her quailed at the dark anger lurking there. Why are you here at all? The berserker challenged, his curiosity momentarily piqued. You aren't strong. His mouth curled in disdain at the mere mention of her strength. If anything, you're barely stronger than your fool of a sire. Yet you're still here. Why? You can't hope to defeat me or any of us. Even the bald buffoon is stronger than you. Ouch! Gonna need a senzu for that one. It wasn't a compliment, Space Duck. Burley growled. Daddy, is he talking about you? Kisa asked her father. Just ignore the crazy man, sweetheart, Krillin sighed, mussing her hair. Just ignore him. Well? Broly demanded. What do you have to say for yourself, girl? At these words, the proud earthling faltered. Broly. Enough. Gohan's voice took on an uncharacteristic edge as he stepped between the two of them. What's done is done. Leave her alone. Naruto won his match. Save your anger for the ring. You're right. He won. The former slave grunted, his dark eyes never leaving Videl. And she will lose. Then he will face me in the ring. Before the half-Saiyan could get a word in edgewise, the pureblood turned his back and stormed off down the hall. That's all that matters. Goku winced watching him go. Maybe he's right, but did he have to hit that guy so hard? Are we really taking pity on Hercule now? 18 scoffed. Hell, Krillin could have taken him. Hey! I agree with the toaster. Vegeta offered a narrow smile. The fool got what he asked for. Careful, Prince. Don't want that toaster to bite you. Not if it's anything like you bite him. Samui whistled. Damn! Naruto, meanwhile, had long since lowered his smoking fist, quietly reveling at the chaos that ensued. A small, childish part of him wanted to leave Hercule where he lay outside the ring and walk away. Consequences be damned. He was an idiot and deserved his lot, and he dared to insult Ramen. Ramen was sacred. By rights, that deserved an ass-kicking right there. Anything extra was just gravy. The voice wanted him to take it a step further. To kill him, Naruto. It crooned somewhere in the back of his mind. Cruel, dread whispers like ice brushing the back of his spine, urging him to act. Kill him! Break that fool's neck and be rid of him and his idiocy forever. What do you owe him, anyway? Temptation danced through his heart, one he swiftly quashed. I'm better than that. Are you? The nasally voice posited. Are you really? Yes, I am. Now get out of my head. Ah, still you play the hero. Get out. Fool! It waned, mocking him. You'll only truly be rid of me once you accept what you really are. Ignoring that sinister promise, he strode across the E and hopped out of bounds to land beside the prone ex-champion. The world fell silent, everyone in the stands and more than a few in the fighter's balcony, wondering what he might do next. No one expected him to reach down, clasp the once former champion's hand in his own, haul him to his feet, and hoist his fist high. Hercule certainly wasn't expecting it at any rate. Neither were his fans. Gradually, shouts of encouragement and approval swallowed up the jeers from the former champion's side, building into a roar of approval, enough to jar the afro-haired fighter out of his stupor. What? He managed, struggling upright. What happened? Did I win? No. Huh? Why, you little cheat? I think we should call it a day now, don't you? Naruto interrupted harshly but quietly, still smiling, still waving to the crowd with his free hand. You called me an imposter. A fake. A fraud. I'll tell you one more time, none of that was fake. It was as real as the air we breathe. And you, well, you lost to it. Now look. Hercule grit his teeth against the hated word, tamping down an unexpected surge of pride as the blonde continued to speak. We can either part on good terms or this gets ugly. You can learn from this, become stronger and challenge me again. Or I can make mincemeat out of you right here and now. Your choice. Personally, I'd go with option A. In the end, the would-be hero had only one choice. Fine, but I'm going to beat you someday, he blustered. Ooh, you'd better believe it. That's my line, the blonde remarked, smiling slightly as he released his fellow champion. Oi, referee! He nudged the startled spectator as he waltzed past. Are you just going to stand there? Or are you going to announce the next match? Oh, right. Hastily snatching his fallen microphone from the floor, the announcer recovered his voice. Let's, see here, the next match is, oh, There we are. Will Son Gohan and Krillin please report to the arena, please? Even from his perch on the stairs, one could hear the bald man groan. Are you kidding me? Gee, sorry, Krillin. Just don't hit me too hard, will ya? Naruto couldn't help but snicker as he ascended to the balcony. To joke or not to joke? That was the question. In the end, it simply slipped out. Just remember Popo's training. He called, "Bite me! Hey, it could be worse!" No sooner had he spoken the words, no sooner had he set foot on the balcony, than he found himself mobbed by a wave of small bodies. In hindsight, he didn't exactly try to dodge his attackers, considering. The hybrid yelped a piticule, "Ugh!" as his daughters all but tackled him headlong, bowling him over onto his back. For once in their young lives, it seemed Hinata, Atsui, Akatane, and Zell were truly of the same mind, in that they each all but demanded to know precisely how he had launched Hercule from the ring. That last move was awesome, Daddy. You didn't even touch him. How did you do that? Teach me. No, me first. Me. Me. Ow, ow, ow. Naruto cried. Girls, I appreciate the hugs, but this hurts. Somebody help. Think we should help him? 18 asked as their children continued to chatter at the increasingly frazzled husband. Samui giggled. Nah. Meh. Zangya shrugged. Let the kids have their fun. Goku chuckled nervously. They certainly are feisty. It's not our fault you can't control your own offspring, Vegeta seconded. Naruto wailed. Traitors, the lot of you. You were holding back against Hercule, weren't you? Bolt was waiting with a pensive look when Naruto finally emerged from the gaggle of girls a few minutes later, gasping for breath. A mildly bruised Krillin was being fussed over by his own daughter, nursing a black eye from his own brief bout. Goku's son hadn't grown complacent during the last 7 years of peace, not in the least. If anything, his power appeared to have tripled. Both blondes exchanged a quick, pensive look as Goku himself was called to face Videl in the ring. Neither were under any illusion as to who would be the victor of that bout. It was the matches that came after that concerned the time traveler. Vegeta and Goku could be counted on to control themselves, but Broly's bout was fast approaching, and his temper had worsened as they day dragged on, impatient to fight. No one had seen him since his first outburst against Videl. That wasn't so worrying by itself, but the idea that he might be wandering around unsupervised was a sure recipe for disaster. 18 had gone to search for him, but then she had vanished too. It was worrying, to say the least. Of course I did. Naruto answered at last as they strode outside to find the man. Anything else would have turned the poor man to paste. Speaking of paste, any sign of your friends yet? They're not my friends. His son grimaced at the memory. And they'll show, just like Boo. I'm certain of it. Merely the thought of that catastrophe made him shudder. When he'd travelled to the past, he'd expected to find the same gentle, kind-hearted hero that his mother had described. Instead, he'd found a fighter deeply flawed. A man who seemed to struggle with his own morality on a day-to-day basis. His father was a wild man. He couldn't be told what to do or how to do it, and in that aspect, they were alike. He'd expected black or white, but he'd found grey. Bolt didn't know what to do with grey. Are you even listening to me? What? Bolt blinked beneath Naruto's stare, realizing he'd drifted off, absently fiddling with the bit of metal at the end of his necklace. The elder blonde was frowning at him most intently, a look of minor annoyance etched into his whiskered visage. I said, what did their Kai feel like? Bolt blinked. I don't see how. Describe it to me. Dark. Geez, his father sighed. That doesn't help, kiddo. Guess we'll just have to deal with them once they show their ugly mugs. He shrugged half-heartedly. Piece of cake. Oh, he cried suddenly. There's Broly by the gate. 18 found him after all. Oi, big guy! Where the hell have you been, eh? Before he could hold it back, Boltz's anger slipped the leash. There was something about his father's confino, his arrogance, that pushed him over the edge. I didn't exactly have time to study them, all right? The young man exploded, rounding on him. I've been too busy fighting for my life to do that. Living. Surviving. And you? What about you? Is this all just a game to you? He jammed a Kai-filled hand against the shinobi's hand, shoving him back a step. Do you have any idea what's at stake here? The fate of our world. No, the entire universe hinges on the outcome of today's battle. If we lose, everyone loses. Do you understand? Everyone! So get off your high horse and man the fuck up, Pops. For a long moment, Naruto was silent. When he laid a hand on his shoulder, the boy nearly jumped out of his skin. As it was, he still flinched when those sapphire eyes met his. I'm sorry. Naruto spoke slowly, softly. It must have been hard for you, living in a world like that. It was. And I'm sorry. I shouldn't have snapped at you. No, the imperfect hybrid argued. You had every right. But is there anything you remember about their key? Anything at all? The only one I truly remember was Babidi, Bolt confessed at last, struggling to meet those blazing blue orbs. And only then, because Mother described him at great length to me, she said his kai felt like, well, like grease, if that makes any sense at all. Oily and black. Tainted. That's it. He died before I was born. I'm sorry I can't tell you more. No, I think you've told me more than enough. The revived shinobi pursed his lips in thought. What did he sound like? High-pitched, nasally voice? Always prattling on about evil and such. Yes, how did you… Damn! Maybe we'll get lucky and wipe out one of our problems beforehand. Bolt was certain his look must have been telling, for his progenitor hastened to explain himself. Well, for the past few days now, his father reluctantly admitted, I've been hearing voices in the back of my head. If it's anything like you just said, there's got to be a telepathic link there, somewhere. I'm fairly certain I can track it and, by definition, him. Might take me a few minutes, though. We find him, wipe him out, and no boo. Bam! He slapped two hands together, creating a loud pop. Problem solved. What? No. The half-scion jumped, startled. Putting aside the fact that you're needed here, you can't. It's too risky. If the wizard were to gain control of you, Naruto caught the look and arched an eyebrow. Do I look like an idiot to you? My family is all that matters to me. I'd never go dark. And besides, he beamed, we've already warned Goku and the others, remember? So there's no chance of him being ambushed in this timeline. Yes, but if you're that worried, just come with us. It'll be easy. I can't believe I'm letting you talk me into this. The scarred blonde chuckled. Come on, it'll be fun. Your old man has a few tricks up his sleeve. Oi, Broly, 18, he called, capturing their attention. Want to step out for a bit? I don't mind, but why? At the sound of Naruto's voice, the brute turned away from 18, grimacing. What are you up to, rival? Just a bit of fun. Naruto supplied readily. Think of it as a warm-up for our match. This he was quick to add, noting the larger Saiyan grin. Don't tell Goku or Vegeta, he whispered, conspiratorially winking. They'd be liable to tag along and drag this out if they get wind of it. I, on the other hand, want to get this shit over with, especially if there's a chance of us having company. It'll be a good fight. What do you say? Agreed. Grinning, the blonde pressed two fingers to his forehead. Hold tight. Naruto was gone. That was problematic in and of itself. Babidi first realized something was amiss when he found he could no longer track the blonde through his crystal ball. He said something about tracking him, placed two fingers to his forehead and vanished in the blink of an eye. Now he couldn't see him at all. As if some powerful eldritch force had reached in and prevented him from doing so, somehow. Still, he closed the mental link solely as a precaution, just to be certain. There was no chance of that brute finding him anyway, he told himself, but against someone that powerful, well, it never hurt to hedge one's bets. Thankfully, he'd taken extra precautions, even keeping Yakun and the others close by. And Dabura waited deeper in the bowels of the ship, if in the event that they were discovered, they wouldn't be caught unawares. And his most powerful warrior had yet to arrive. He'd been tempting the man for weeks, slowly strengthening his hold over him. The so-called Super Saiyan wasn't anywhere near as pure of heart as he and the others liked to believe. There was a darkness in him that he sought to deny, an animal clawing to get out. It was part of the reason he hadn't bothered sending Spopovich or Yamu to the tourney in the first place. It was simply too dangerous. The risks that they would be overcome and flee or worse be captured were simply too high. Dabura might not be able to handle so many. Yakun and Pui Pui certainly couldn't. Soon he wouldn't need those two either. Oh, Naruto resisted admirably, of course, but he was crumbling. Unlike that giant. That one had a will of pure iron and nothing he tried, no promises of power or prestige could hope to bend it. That one had accepted his identity long ago and resolved to keep it. Not so for the blonde one, oh no. He struggled with his nature, yes, he would be his. Soon. Babidi could feel it. And once he did, he'd have a fighter unlike any other. and once he had Majin Buu, he'd possess a warrior beyond compare. He had to be careful, of course. There would be no telling what might happen if Buu was revived with insufficient energy. Who knew what might emerge from the cocoon then? No, he would have to devise a way to lure him in, alone, and chin! His only warning came in the form of a sharp noise from behind. Then his world went sideways, hurling him to the floor. What? The entire ship seemed to heave due to being caught in the throes of a great quake. As if the hand of an angry god had reached down, seized hold of the wizard's world and shook it apart, everyone and everything went flying in every conceivable direction. Men, minions, and magic alike. A flash of light obliterated the ceiling in short measure, spilling broken steel and sunbeams into the darkened room. And amidst the light, he saw 4 warriors, one most recognizable of all. Babidi shrank back with a hiss, suddenly feeling very much like the fool he was. Oh, eyes like bloody red daggers snapped to him. Saw him. "There's the little fucker!" Naruto roared. "Take him out!" "Don't just stand there, you idiots!" The wizard shrieked. "Get them!" Thus the battle was joined. Yakun howled in anger and lunged upward, only to be met by 18's fist. An explosive wave flattened the hulking monstrosity to the floor, who then shrank back into the dark, leaving the android to follow. Broly fell upon Spopovich and Yamu with a mad cackle. A hammer blow from one of those massive arms, driving them into the wall. Poi Poi's brief charge found itself aborted as Bolt intercepted him, sword swinging. Miraculously, the alien managed to evade the first blow, even the second, by the narrowest of margins. He did not escape the third. "Urk!" Pui's headless corpse crashed to his master's feet a moment later, followed by a dull explosion somewhere in the bowels of the ship and a guttural roar, no doubt heralding the end of Yakuyan. The wizard shrieked and skittered backwards away from the body like a drunken crab, eyes a-bulging. Considering the already grotesque status of his face, that was something to be said. How? How had this happened? How had they found him so easily? He opened his mouth to bark an order to Spopovich and Yamu, only to find that the larger warrior had already dispatched them. Their now prone bodies lay sprawled across the floor a ways behind him, their necks snapped like such simple sticks. No, this was all wrong. His minions were all dying too quickly. They were coming for him, and Boo still had so little energy. Thumb! A red fist smashed across the Naruto's face before he could reach the sorcerer, hurling him across the room to smash into a wall. Across the hall, the energy meter shrieked in approval. Babidi barely heard it. He was far too focused on the white cape, now standing between him and certain death. He'd never been happier to see its owner. Dabara! Frothing at the mouth, the wizard all but leapt to his feet. "Where have you been?" Yellow eyes cut across at the intruders, narrow and angry. "Leave them to me, master. I've got him." Bolt lunged at the Demon King. But instead of defending, Dabura did the inconceivable. He spat. The young man flinched and jerked back, pawing at his arm. "Yuck!" he cried. "What the hell? Who spits on their opponent? Disgusting." "Oi!" Naruto snapped. "Your arm? What are you, gah?" A strange grey sheen began to spread across his limb, flesh converting itself into hardened slate as he looked on. "Shit! Get off! Get off of me!" Crying out, he flared his aura, but that only hastened the change, and within mere moments, the young Saiyan was fully transmuted into stone, encased in rock from head to toe. A statue frozen in time, frozen in horror, staring into nothingness, forever immovable. His father, having rushed forth to his side, now stopped, aghast at what he saw there. But not for long. Naruto turned slowly, eyes burning. "Change him back," Dabura cackled. "Make me!" Clenched knuckles in a blazing azure aura slammed up under Dabura's chin, hurling the demon up and through the gaping tear in the ceiling at a meteoric pace. Naruto shot after him, spitting curses strong enough to blacken the darkest heart. His burly comrade ascended after him, and Babidi warily followed behind, careful to stay out of ki blast range. He was immensely grateful he did so, for not a moment later, a streak of scarlet energy hurtled across the sky, obliterating a nearby bank of clouds, eliciting a yelp. "Watch where you're shooting, fool!" If Dabura heard him, he gave no indication. The riot of sapphire and scarlet only grew angrier across the rapidly darkening afternoon sky. Thunderclaps shook heaven and earth as dark clouds rolled in. silent shockwaves lifting the soil around the ship to fling broken bodies away like rag dolls. All the while Babidi watched, dread building in his heart. Dabura had to win. He must. If he didn't, he had no illusions about escaping. No, with so many eyes on him. But perhaps if they were distracted, he could ply his magic. Don't even think about it. Babidi froze as a slender shadow fell over him. It was the woman from before, the wizard realized with a start, daring to turn his head the beautiful blonde that had accompanied Naruto here. Having just emerged from the ship below, she appeared none too pleased to have found him here. Ice blue eyes locked onto his, waiting for the slightest movement, the faintest sign of aggression. He couldn't detect so much as an ounce of energy from her, but he daren't attack all the same. This woman had trounced Yarkon. He wouldn't stand a chance. Strength of body had never been his strong suit, but it wasn't the only avenue to escape. Your concern is touching, but do you mean it? He purred, turning to face the android completely. 18 arched an eyebrow. What? You claim to love him, but we both know that's a lie. He tried to kill you not so long ago, remember? The wizard continued to croon, smiling darkly. And you hate him for it. Who's to say it won't happen again? He didn't love you first. No, he doesn't love you. He'll never love you. Not anymore. Not with that body. You can't even have children anymore, all thanks to him. Eventually, you'll be forgotten altogether, with nothing but your misery for company. I can change that, you know. I can give you power. Power, such that he'd never forget you. Power the likes of which you've never seen. The android was silent for a very long time. Then, incredibly, she smiled. Is that it? Doubt all you like, but Vizem! Whatever else he might have said was lost as a thin, blinding beam of light issued forth from her extended finger and into his face. All thought ceased to be over the sound of his own screaming, over the white-hot fire dominating the entirety of his skull. Pain. Everywhere. Pain in his face. His eye. His eye, Tilda. Gah! Babidi howled, clawing at his visage. What have you done to me? I just cauterized your right eye, the super-android informed him coldly, her voice rising over his agonized whimpers. It's a fascinating procedure, really. Try anything else and I won't be as nice. And since we're telling life stories here, let me stop you there. Smug in her satisfaction, she thumbed up his chin, forcing the wounded wizard to look her in the eye. I do love him. I always will. It doesn't matter what kind of body I have. He's still the father of my daughter, and for being that I love him all the more. Nothing you say will ever change that. Hissing in pain and defeat, the wizard could only turn his attention back to the battle and pray for a change. Naruto and Dabura grappled one another now, hand to hand. Shinobi and demon neither willing to yield. Ah, you're stronger than you look, Dabura growled. Strong enough to kill you. They shot apart, collided once more, throwing blows in equal measure, until one finally mistimed a block and savage kick struck him from the sky. Naruto struck the ground like a falling comet, carving a great, mile-long smouldering trench into the dirt as he tumbled end over end. He recovered quickly, vaulting to his feet, but the damage had been done. The energy reader in Babid's hand went berserk, beeping furiously as though it were possessed. Even with only one eye intact, he could see that the reading was substantial. Yes, Dabura. The sorcerer crowed! Now we're seeing some energy. Keep at it. Not for long, 18 declared smugly. What, when next he looked, the scion was gone. Where did he? Rasengan! Dabura snarled in pain as the spiraling sphere slammed into his back, grinding against his spine. Naruto saw him turn his head. He didn't see the spit until it made contact against his wrist. He squawked in surprise and seized his limb by the elbow, ripping it away in a flash of blood and bone. Unprepared for the sudden lull in combat, Dabura hung back, awaiting the blonde's next move. He squawked in surprise and seized his limb by the elbow, ripping it away in a flash of blood and bone. Dabura cackled. What's wrong, scum? I thought you were stronger than that. Naruto stood woodenly, jaw clenching tightly, grinning around a thin line of blood. Then he smiled, rolling his remaining arm loosely in its socket. Thanks for the warm-up, but compared to Cell, you're nothing. Blue eyes flashed into narrow slits, flaxen hair standing on end. I gave you my hand because I was just curious. Does your petrification work? I wondered. And now I know. If you perish, it'll be reversed. So now you die. Nonsense, the demon lord exclaimed, scowling. I've seen the extent of your power. You can't hope to match me. Yeah, but I'm not going to be in this form much longer. A sharp pop announced the return of his limb, regrown with all the speed and ease of a Namek, bone, muscle and skin, all. Let's see, about 50% should be enough to waste you. Knuckling up, he began to gather his kai, flecks of white gold flashing through his already bright hair. Ha! You're bluffing. If you had that much power, you would have... Ah! What the hell? Where was this power coming from? Humph. 18 unfolded her arms. Only 50? He's still not taking this seriously. If he'd used the fourth form from the beginning, we would have been back at the tournament by now. Babid swore. No. This isn't happening. He wasn't the only one in denial. A few short yards away, Broly knuckled his hands, a flicker of envy stirring in his chest as he felt a wall of energy crush down around his shoulders. It didn't seem possible, but even in this form, his power greatly eclipsed his maximum. Damn it! How does he keep surpassing me? Ah! Lighting scrawled across his body jagged sparks of cerulean, lending his burgeoning aura an almost sinister hue. With a final triumphant roar, the whiskered warrior became an ascended Saiyan. That is a Super Saiyan 2. The sprawling force of his aura blasting the Majin-controlled warrior away with ease. Dabura's face purpled, a bead of sweat dripping down his riot-coloured face as he struggled to hold himself aloft against the massive storm brewing only yards away. Naruto dropped into a stance. Here I come. Prepare yourself, demon boy. Fool! Dabura blustered. Don't think this changes anything? I will destroy you. No, you won't. A single finger stabbed down. 3 words were uttered, sealing the demon's fate. Cho, Odama, Rasengan. What? That was all the great demon lord had time to say before the massive sapphire sphere plummeted down out of the sky and smashed his body to bloody red atoms. In the same movement, Naruto spun about and flung a hand upright, obliterating a great swathe of sky before the now fleeing Babidi. The wizard shrieked and backpedaled, patting at his smouldering cape amidst the smoke. So close. He'd nearly escaped. To his great dismay, he found that the one known as Bolt was already moving again, freed from his stone confines by the death of Dabura. Like father, like son, the swordsman wasted no time in swooping down after him. There he is! Get the little bastard! Frantically, Babidi flung his hands up. Papaparappa Naruto's palm closed around his mouth, strangling the spell on his lips and crunching against his larynx. Gotcha, bitch. You could have great power if you left them, you know. Babidi desperately sank all his remaining mental might into one final spell, straining to control the titan that was slowly crushing his throat. Your family? They're just holding you back. You'll never be happy with them. With me, you would be free. Free to fight and kill whomever you pleased. Speaking of lies, I think it's high time I let you go. Really? Naruto sneered. No. Wait. We should talk about Ugach. A single squeeze was all it took to snap the wizard's neck. Naruto dropped the deceased sorcerer and left him fall, his shriveled corpse. Somebody blast the ship while we're at it. Broly flicked a contemptuous hand in the vessel's direction, his fingers hurling a pair of twin green spheres towards the half-buried ship. Together they crashed through the ground and into the vessel below, igniting in a thunderous explosion. The ensuing blast was nothing short of legendary. A great column of green fire erupted up and out of the crater, consuming the wizard's body and Boo's cocoon with it. The 4 Z-fighters watched the burning emerald plume ascend up into the heavens until it finally extinguished itself, at long last altogether, in a final flay, leaving behind a charred and ruined crater in its wake. Well, Naruto sighed, turning from the ruin and dusting off his hands. That was anticlimactic. He turned to find 3 pairs of eyes staring back at him. Or rather, behind him. Bolt swallowed. What? 18 pointed. Behind you. Naruto spun with a start, his eyes instinctively seeking something, someone where there was nothing. It wasn't until he realized where Broly was looking, where they were all looking, that he thought to raise his gaze to the sky above. At first, he didn't see anything, his vision still adjusting to the relative darkness that had once been a bright afternoon day. But those clouds hadn't vanished after the battle. If anything, they'd grown even darker, lending a sinister ebon hue to the scarred battlefield. Then, finally, he saw it. Smoke. Pink smoke. Shit. How in the hell did that happen? What? I don't know, Bolt snapped back. I was out for most of it. The hell did you guys do? Well, I killed Dabura and butchered Babidi. Naruto started, frowning. And then Broly blew up the ship. That'd do it! As he looked on that strange, eerie mist gradually began to coalesce, assuming shape and form, becoming more and more solid with each passing moment. Within a handful of seconds, it had assumed a humanoid body, slim in appearance, yet still strangely menacing. Everyone tensed, ready to face the most terrible abomination the galaxy had never known, bracing themselves for the battle of their lives, for some horrid creature out of their worst nightmare, a brutal, heartless beast brought to life, and instead got something entirely different. When his smoke finally became flesh, Naruto realized it wasn't flesh at all, but a strange pink porous substance that served for skin. And he wasn't a he at all. She was a slim, tiny little thing, barely coming up to his shoulder. Her head was framed by strange, tentacle-like appendages that may or may not have been hair, with a singe-rounded lock that might have been an antenna standing straight up against her head. Bright, hot pink eyes stared out at him from dark sclera, blank and confused. Her chest was covered by a strange yellow-black vest, around which a ridiculous purple cape was bound. Her arms ended in yellow gloves to match her boots. The only menacing aspect of her at all was the buckled belt she wore against simple white trousers, bearing the classic M insignia. All in all, not terrifying at all. The entity looked at them, touching a finger to her chin, cocked her head, baffled, blinked. Boo! Okay, that's kinda cute, ga. Focus! Naruto relaxed, albeit slightly. Is that Majin Buu? No, I mean yes, Bolt faltered, flushing deeply. That's certainly a Buu, but it's not the Majin Buu I remember from my timeline. At the whiskered warrior's baffled glance, he hastily amended his sentence. That Buu was a fat idiot. This one is... Well, I think I'd remember an adorable bubblegum woman wearing a cape and gloves. Ah! I don't understand. He gazed forlornly at his hands, curling them into fists. It doesn't make any sense. A woman. Broly scowled, folding his massive arms before his chest. You mean to tell me all this fuss was over a woman? She's pathetic. My children could crush her. Don't be deceived, the time traveler argued. No matter what Boo looks like, no matter what you sense, it's still monstrously strong. Even I could barely hold my own against it. That thing? Ha! Kid, 18 groaned. This is what happens when you mess with time. I'm being serious here. So am I, Naruto swore. Look, we can't just attack her without cause. Boo wants to play! Bolt started and nearly drew his blade. Oh ho ho ho! Broly cried, grinning. She speaks! You! A slim gloved finger thrust itself at Naruto, pointing eagerly. Strong guy! Let's play! Huh? Everyone stopped to look at the strange entity, a tumultuous series of scenarios working their way through their heads. Bolt wanted nothing more than to eradicate this strange alien creature for good and move on to more pressing matters. Broly didn't even see this pink creature as resembling a true threat whatsoever. If anything, he was mildly bemused by her childlike presence. 18 feigned cold aloofness on the matter, but remained quietly amused by her husband's cumulative discomfort. But what she perceived as discomfort was anything but, for the whiskered scion merely felt a quiet pity for the being woman standing before him. In the end, only 5 words came to Naruto's mind. He offered a mute shrug and squared up. Fuck this shit. I'm game. Boo grinned impishly. Yay! Chapter 24. Wrath of the Gods. Bow play now, tilde. Ack! Naruto squawked in surprise and threw up his arms at the last instant, narrowly crossing his limbs to block the oncoming attack. The blow slammed into his crossed wrists like a bolt from the heavens and launched him across the desert, his back slamming down against the rocky soil. Boo shot after him with a happy giggle, striking at him with a speed that bellied her slight size. Gloved fists gleefully rained down on the tumbling ninja, despite his best efforts to ward her off. Nimble blows striking through his defenses as though they were practically non-existent. In short, he got absolutely shredded. The sheer force of the impacts reverberated across the ruined plains in vicious thunderclap, shattering stone and earth alike in equal measure. The entire time it was all he could do merely to hold her off. Either she did not know the meaning of holding back, or her blows were meant to kill. Judging by her benign smile, he was guessing the former. By the time he finally managed to toss her off him with an explosive wave, he could feel the first of many new bruises beginning to form. Why had he decided to take her on in his first form again? Okay, that hurt. Levering his now numb limbs against the ground, the Super Saiyan hissed softly and pushed himself upright, flexing his fingers. Still think she's harmless? Bolt called from his nearby perch on one of the few intact cliffs. That blow alone would have floored me as a Super Saiyan 3. How the hell are you still standing? I thought you said she was weaker than you. Naruto shot back, smiling. I keep telling you, she's just playing. No, she isn't, his future son argued, shouting to make himself heard over Boo's humming. Can we please attack her together and move on to more important things? Or do I have to do it myself? Naruto's smile vanished. Boy, he warned, don't make me come over there and be a parent. First time for everything, old-timer. The young man shot back. Oh ho 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 ho! Strong man fall down. A soft breeze alerted him to the arrival of the Majin in question, who he secretly suspected wasn't a Majin at all. He'd left no shortage of openings for her to exploit, any of which could have crippled him. But she hadn't taken them. Not once. So when she alighted beside him and didn't press the attack, he took that as further proof validation of his theory. She was, well, simple. Easily turned to either good or evil. Who knew what the Boo in Bolt's timeline had been like? This one was, for whatever reasons, different from her future counterpart. Far different indeed. Why, strong man, stop? She asked, tilting her head in confusion. Because you knocked me down, Boo. Oh. Magenta eyes blinked, as though only just seeing his wounds. Boo, sorry. Before he could think to stop her, the caped woman knelt down beside him, extending her hands. Boo fix. It's all right, I'll be wa. Naruto stopped short as a gentle green glow issued forth from those gloved hands, bathing him in emerald relief. What was this? Magic? He could think of nothing else to describe it. It certainly didn't feel like an attack, no, not at all. If anything, it reminded him of the time Dende had healed him. Whatever it was, it certainly felt similar and proved far more potent. With a matter of moments, his wounds were all but gone, vanished into thin air. The only sign of his injuries were the tears in his orange GI. Well, I'll be damned. Startled, the shinobi sprang to his feet, throwing a cursory punch. I didn't know you could heal. I think actually got a boost from that. Strong man play now. All right. Naruto relented. But first, I've got something to show you. Would you mind waiting a second? 18 and Broly shared a wary look. He wouldn't. I think he would. Boo grinned. Boo-doo! With a small sigh, he dropped back into his base state. Boo didn't take kindly to that. No, she did not. Why you go down? She whined, lips coming together in an annoyed pout. Strong man not play no more? Oh, we'll play. Naruto offered a small smile, wincing slightly as he stood. But first, I thought I'd take a minute to teach you a thing or two about us Saiyans. You know, the basics. Boo no want talk. Bubblegum Beauty growled, fists clenching at her sides. Boo want to play. You're going to love this. He reassured her, planting his feet in the dirt. Trust me. First, Thumb! This power that once been so foreign to him came readily now. He had but to close his eyes and picture it in his mind's eye. When next his eyes opened, they burned a gentle teal, his already spiky hair standing stiff and erect against the back of his head. Rich yellow light flowed calmly into existence around him, staining his once sapphire aura a shade of molten gold. Power welled up in him, relaxed and flat as a gentle ocean, yet ready and waiting all the same, eager to be unleashed at the slightest provocation, leashed only by iron will. This is a Super Saiyan, the whiskered warrior explained. Super Saiyajin? The Majin lisped. What's that? Meh, he shrugged. Close enough. Now! The form of an ascended Saiyan was never something he'd ever truly mastered. Indeed, there had been no need. He'd barreled right past it to reach greater heights. As such, it proved slightly more elusive to summon to the fore. No long able to entirely contain the power lurking within, blue-white sparks tingled with gold skittered about his body as he exhaled, a small storm come to life. This is what is known as a Super Saiyan that has ascended past a Super Saiyan. His voice emerged as a growl, or you could just call it Super Saiyan 2. Do you remember this form, Boo? I was using it when we first met. The pink girl nodded eagerly. Boo, still stronger, she declared confidently, planting both hands on her hips. For now, Naruto conceded, his grin growing. And this HRRGK. A fierce storm kicked up, driving Boo back a step. To go beyond that of an ascended Saiyan, one had to dig deeper still. It was like tapping a new well of power. One had but to find it, and the water would pour forth. A burning, angry warmth flooded his forehead and ears as the change took hold, and he ascended even higher still, followed by the ever-curious weight against his back as his jagged hair burgeoned to absurd proportions. The storm around him now became a raging typhoon, sparks skittering across his clenched body and fists like sinister blue snakes. The entire world threatened to shake itself apart only to fall still as the ninja stood. This is Super Saiyan 3? Incredibly, the Majin only grinned. You strong like Boo now? She cried, delighted, bouncing on her heels. Strong man ready to play again? Soon, Boo, soon, Naruto answered, wincing at the sound of his savaged vocal cords, of the raw, raging promise of violence seething within. His voice sounded downright menacing, even to his own ears. He could only imagine how he appeared to those looking on from without. He straightened slowly, cracking his neck from left to right with an effort, wincing as the tense muscles reluctantly loosened. Only 2 others beside myself, 3 if you count the boy over there, have ever reached this form. It takes your body to unbelievable levels, but there's another beyond it. Would you like to see that, Boo? Me not think you get much stronger. You'll see. Naruto grinned. If you're going to power up, now's the time. Boo show you. Despite all desire to the contrary, the last shinobi found himself smiling. How strong was she, really? Could she give him a proper fight? Naruto's pride was something he didn't enjoy. It made him hunger for a true battle, when he had no interest in such things. Pride was dangerous. He'd seen what it had made Vegeta do against Cell, and he'd no intention of making that mistake. He just wanted to get the measure of her, he told himself, to see if she was really as pure and innocent as she seemed. It had nothing to do with wanting a fight, he told himself. Nope, not at all. And this? Knuckling up, he clenched both arms at his sides and flared his aura anew. Jade eyes stained themselves gold, poisoned honey overtaking the deep, verdant green of his irises. He had to push hard to find this one. This power was unnatural, near the peak of his power, one he had never truly been meant to wield, yet captured all the same. It brought him to the very fringes of his being, all emotion hardened, sharpened, focused into a single lance to pierce the darkness and draw out the fullness of his being. Boo immediately mimicked the motion, crossing both arms before her face and gathering her ki. A roaring pinkish-violet aura sprang to life around her. As such, her opponent's whisper went entirely unheard. This, the resultant hurricane knocked all but Boo right on their rears. Is to go? Naruto's rising shout gathered into a rolling avalanche of noise and wrath as tufts of crimson fur birthed themselves across the length of his arms and chest, the once golden sheen of his hair fleeing before a dark, onyx hue. His tail lashed about behind him like an angry wild thing, furtively coiling in on itself as he called forth every ounce of power he could without losing control. If the world had trembled before, not it outright quaked, threatening to crumble beneath the sheer weight of that angry rising force swelling around him. A blinding red light suffused his body, burning brighter than any sun. Eyes the colour of poisoned honey glared into pink ones. Even further beyond, when next he cried out, the entire universe felt it. Hakaishin Temple, halfway across the known universe. We sneezed. Dear me. Pausing in his afternoon meal to dab at his nose with a tissue, Beerus' elegant attendant summoned his staff. Sniffing, he quietly peered into the depths of its orb, seeking the cause of the disturbance. More curiosity than anything else eventually drew his attention to the small planet known Earth, to the cataclysmic forces being exerted there. A lesser being might have balked. Mortals had indeed come far since his lordship's little catnap, remarkably so for such a short-lived race. The mere sight of it made him smile. Oh, that's just adorable. For a brief moment he actually considered waking him early, only to reconsider it at the last. Beerus-sama wasn't due to wake up for a few more months at least, if memory served. Impressive thought this key might be to most, it was still just mortal key, and thereby puny by divine standards. Whomever this was, they wouldn't present much of a challenge. Not yet, at least. And a power like this? They still had a long way to go indeed. But perhaps in the near future, chuckling at the thought, he returned to his lunch. Now then, what should I try next, Tild? Meanwhile, on the sacred world of the Kais, what in the name of me? Shin's eyes snapped open as what could only be described as a torrent of ice flooded his mind. Even here, leagues away from its source, he felt it as though it were right beside him, a veritable wellspring of power nigh but stretching across the very universe itself to make its presence known to him. He couldn't think. An icy, frigid hand of dread had closed around his throat, strangling all sense from him. No, this couldn't be possible. It just couldn't. When the sinister sensation finally loosened its grasp on him, he all but collapsed, crashing to the grassy ground in a heap. No mortal key could possibly reach this far. Could it? And there, beneath it all, a presence he'd not felt in an age. He knew it anywhere. How had he not sensed this before? Kibito! Sire, we're going to Earth. Now! Yes, at once. Back on Earth. Ha/ha, Tilda! How are they both this powerful? Bolt squawked. 18 barely heard him over the rising storm. She was one of the most powerful among them, and even then it took nearly all she had not to be blown away by the sheer force of their rising Kai. The already darkened skies had grown pitch black by now, blotting out the sun until the pale discus was nowhere to be seen amongst the looming cloud bank. Bolts of pale lightning crackled and slithered through their charged depths, great peals of thunder chasing hot on their heels, shaking the very sky itself. And still, the twin titans continued to raise their ki. Saffron vied with magenta, twin auras snapping and snarling at one like cats and dogs as their respective owners pushed themselves to the very brink of their limits, and then, beyond them, the heavens trembled, the earth quaked. The very air itself felt charged, ready to release its bounty at a moment's notice. And then it did. The rain hit sudden and it hit hard. Great, thick droplets tearing themselves free from the clouds to fall upon the desert, and all within, drenching all within moments. The observing scions and android paid it no mind at all. Their eyes glued to those below, drawn each of them had been outclassed long ago. Then Naruto grinned. Not bad, boo. Now for good measure, Kayakan. Broly started. What? Times? No, he can't. 5. The shinobi's shout peaked into a strangled scream as his skin took on a robust red hue, scarlet sparks scrawling around him amidst the rain. For a fleeting moment his aura nearly gutted out, only to roar back to life, stronger than ever before. Naruto grinned, exposing sharpened canines in the raging downpour. Bolt's brow shot right up to his hairline. When did he... 18 smiled warmly. That's more like it. The legendary Super Saiyan disagreed. No, it's impossible. The gap between us can't be this wide, he cried, shielding his face with an arm. It can't. It seemed for every step he took, his rival was 10 paces ahead of him. Now this! What was this Kayakan technique? He'd gone even further. Would he never be able to close this gap? What would it take for him to gain a power like this? When at last the storm finally abated, the shinobi stood, straightening with a gravelly grunt. Sorry that took so much longer than the others. Naruto rumbled. I haven't had much occasion to practice this one at full power. This is what I call Super Saiyan 4. A scarlet spark snarled between them, gouging a nearby boulder into nothingness. I'm the only one to achieve it. As to the Kayaken, broad shoulders shrugged. It's something I can't really maintain safely for long without tearing my body apart, and even then, about 5 times is probably the limit. But you wanted me at my best, so here I am. Boo giggled. Boo no scared. Big red hair make you look big funny. Say that after you knock me down. If you can, that is. The last shinobi challenged, sliding into a stance. One foot edged forward and another drew back, a hand shooting forward, fingers crooking into a claw. When the Majin made no move to attack, his grin grew slightly. What's wrong? He called, beckoning. Scared? Or do you want to power up some more? The bubblegum girl bristled, steam gusting out the vents in her head and arms with a whistling shriek. Boo, no scared. But, then come. Thumb! The Super Saiyan's arm rose effortlessly, brushing her sloppy punch aside as though it were a flimsy falling feather. His legs scissored up half a heartbeat later, punting the pink girl away into the distance. In the time that it took the Majin to right herself, she found that the strong man was nowhere to be seen. Neither was anything else, for that matter. All that lay before he was the deep blue ocean. A small, very small part of her realized he'd just launched her halfway across the planet with a single kick. A sane opponent might have been a little worried there. Not Majin Buu. She thought that this was great fun. Hey there. Nice weather we're having, innit? Buu glanced up, blissfully baffled. Naruto hovered only a few yards above, arms folded across the broad plane of his chest, expression decidedly stoic. Well, he called down to her. What are you waiting for? Never one to ignore a challenge, she lunged. Bo Tilda! Naruto's fist shot out, meeting her clenched knuckles with his own time and time again. Thumb! 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 The shocks of each repeated blow sent chills tingling up the length of her arm. Boo struck again, twisting into a spiraling kick only to find her leg blocked yet again, this time by her opponent's black-clad knee. Instead of striking again with her fists as he'd expected, however, the Majin snapped her head forward in a sharp whipping motion, wielding appendage atop her head like a makeshift whip. Before Naruto's very eyes, the tentacle lengthened, shooting out to encircle his neck in a tight hold. The scion choked in surprise, unprepared for this new tactic. Twisting her head again, she reeled him in. Ha! Right into a Rasengan. The sheer force of the spiraling sphere smashed a ragged hole in her stomach, causing her to loose her grip and fall away. Imagine his surprise when she straightened up and popped the orifice right out. Literally. She simply stretched her stomach, and the massive tear simply vanished right before his very eyes. Any guilt he might have felt at harming evaporated at her grin. Boo, like you, she cried, delighted. You super strong. I'm flattered. Naruto retorted. Now I want you to hit me. Boo, you might have misheard me. His pale face flashed a grin. Not half as hard like Cell did. Not some arbitrary percentage. I want you to hit me as hard as you can. Her leading arm finally found his face not a moment later. Zip. It promptly flew free from her body, leaving the bubblegum woman staring at little more than a severed elbow, the gloved fist now trapped against his skull and well within her foe's open hand. For a frightful eternity she simply stood there, disbelief frozen on her face, eyes half-lidded in confusion. There was no reaction from the blonde. None at all. She waited for him to disappear, to move, to do something, anything at all. And impossibly, he frowned. What, is that it? Disappointing. A hand like an iron locked around her right arm before she could strike, then the other folding the supple flesh of her body together with cruel ease. Naruto continued to squeeze until Boo found herself physically squirming in his grasp, simultaneously seething and desperately trying to find an escape out where none was to be found. She continued to rage silently as she dropped to a knee, choking back a cry of pain as she felt her body begin to regenerate. Let Boo go. His leg rose, booted foot drawn back. As you wish. Clenched knuckles dented Boo's slim stomach and sent her skipping across the surface of the water like a wild kunai. Each bounce shredding more cloth and skin than the last. Flailing, she tried to slow herself with her kai, but another visible blow only strengthened the force of her own inertia and ripped her away. A third strike, and the Majin found herself right back where they'd first started, judging by the startled gasps that fell on her ears. Wait, were they ears? She thought they were thumb! An invisible ki ripped her out of the sky before she could finish mending her wounds. Where you go? Above! A red comet of a blow collided with her face a moment later, slamming the started Majin down through a boulder as though it were made of rotten wood. By the time she reached the next, her skull threatened to split in twine from within. She almost wished it would, just so the pain would stop. But no, he couldn't be that strong. Boo was strongest. Boo was best. Her childlike mind simply couldn't comprehend the notion that she might not be the strongest. It never even occurred to her just how woefully outmatched she was, nor how much this strong guy had been holding back. Her confidence crumbled even further, however, when the blonde alighted next to her, the kayaken sputtering out around him. All right, he decided, offering her his hand. I think that's it for playtime. You lost. Lost? Something snapped. Her temper, briefly tamped down by the promise of a good fight, exploded in a cloud of wrathful anger. You not supposed to lose? Naruto frowned. Hey now, it's nothing to get upset about. Boo is upset. Leaping to her feet, the diminutive Majin shoved him away, antennae bristling with a strange bioluminescence. Make you candy! Naruto's hand snapped up, cloaked in energy, batting away the beam that followed. Diverted harmlessly into the sky, he didn't give it a second thought. He was far too focused on the strange white smoke, leaking from the girl's porous forehead. Her once strange energy had taken on a ghastly hue, leaving her cradling her skull, whimpering softly. Unbidden, Naruto found himself retreating a step. What the hell's up with her, Kish? He soon had an answer. Nah! With an ear-piercing shriek, Majin Buu's head snapped up entirely of its own volition and violently expelled a cloud of scalding steam into the sky. Naruto followed the entire spectacle with a wary, watchful eye, on guard for any unorthodox attack. Buu had already proven that she could stretch parts of her anatomy at will. Who knew what this could be? Some new form of attack, perhaps, now that she'd lost her temper? Who knew? He wasn't about to relax his guard to find out. To his surprise, it wasn't a cloud at all. Something worse. Much worse. As he looked on, the cloud started to take shape and form. Then, much as it had before with Buu's birth, the strange smoke gathered in the sky, taking shape and form. It wasn't an attack as he'd first suspected. Not even a person, he realized, watching the limbs and head take shape from the noxious cloud of steam. Not a person at all. Another Buu. This one was all skin and bones, a shriveled, pale grey thing. He couldn't think of any other way to describe it. Tall, almost anorexic to the point where he could see the girl's ribs, she was in every way a dark copy of the Buu he'd been battling. She hung there in the air for a long moment, inhaling deeply, a deceptively blank look adorning her pallid face. Almost absurdly skinny, she sported the same cape and clothes as her counterpart, the sole exception being that said cape was a dark cobalt blue. White eyes the colour of rancid milk swept over them all. But these eyes were cold and cruel, a being without pity, without remorse, without fear. "Bat Buu!" the smaller girl groaned out. "What, do I have to fight you now?" "No! This one is mine!" "What in the have you lost your mind?" "Wrong! I've found it." Naruto nearly jumped as Broly, tired of being sidelined, appeared at his elbow and all but shunted him aside with a massive forearm. His once dark hair stood firm and erect in angry golden spikes as the Super Saiyan stalked forward, white eyes glaring furiously at the new challenger. His very body seemed to tremble with each step, a sure sign he was about to transform and possibly lose control all over again. Despite Naruto's fierce protests, the larger Saiyan walked right up to the spindly Buu and, to his great dismay, slugged her right in the face. The newcomer paused, looked him up and down, frowned. "Go away." Her voice emerged as little more than a raspy hiss broken from lack of use. "Not interested in weaklings." "Weakling!" The pureblood thundered as she walked away. "I'll show you." Snarling, he lunged forward. Evil Buu didn't even give the legendary Super Saiyan a second glance, much less a chance to transform. The grey girl simply growled and backhanded him. Hard. Everyone looked on in stark disbelief as Broly's body smacked into the dirt with a sickening crack, carving out a great trench in the broken earth before he finally careened to a halt. Even from here, one could see his neck lolling at an awkward angle, either horribly damaged or outright broken. Bolt was already shooting forward by the time Broly ground to a stop, reaching for his blade. "No!" Naruto snapped, throwing out a hand. "Stay back with 18. You're no match for this." His son's charge stalled as swiftly as it had begun, indecision flickering across that still youthful face. "But she'll kill you, idiot!" Denied her prey, the ghastly apparition spared him a rueful glance, still clad in shimmering dark ki. Then she turned her sights on her pink counterpart. "You." Her voice was a snarl, rusty and sharp in declaration. "You, not Buu." "Me, Buu! Me kill you! You, not Buu!" Buu shot back, leaping to her feet. "Me, Buu?" "No!" Her dark half snarled, shoving her face against hers. "Me. Me." Buu shoved right back. "Me. Me." In the end, Dark Buu was the one to grow weary of arguing and throw the first punch, slugging her weaker half across the chin and hurling her away. Naruto's followed the scene with a frown, golden flick toward the pale copy, narrowing. "No, you don't," he muttered. He didn't want to wait and see what would happen if this pale creature won this now external war of wills. Unlike most Saiyans, he simply wasn't willing to take that chance. So instead of standing by and letting the fates have their say, he leveled a dark glare at the bony Majin's exposed back and raised a hand, summoning a tiny compressed Rasen shuriken to the tip of an index finger. At the precise moment when she was most focused on her prey, he launched it forth in a whirling spiral of shrieking energy and chakra. At the precise moment of impact, the sphere expanded to its true size, engulfing most of its target's lower torso. The evil Boo never stood a chance. Thousands of minute blades born of chakra and ki ripped it in apart, scattering it to the wind. Those pieces that flew free were torn apart by still more blades until little more than a mangled one-armed torso remained. What was left fought frantically to regenerate, desperately struggling to repair the massive damage that had been done it. To no avail. The sheer size and scope of the attack was not something that could be erased in moments, even minutes at that. Only one thought dominated its mind. Escape! It needed time to mend its body. Minutes that the creature simply didn't have. Not with Uzumaki Naruto bearing down on it. Don't think so, he growled, flattening it with his boot. You're not going anywhere. He wasn't even remotely prepared for what came next. Because the good Boo acted on the sudden attack. Now he'd expected that much. It was simply in her nature. Still, this startled him. Boo, make you chocolate! Once more, the spiraling pink beam issued forth from her tentacle-light appendage, arcing towards the prone copy at blinding speed. Except this time, it struck its intended target dead on. Naruto quickly withdrew in the nick of time, but the vile doppelganger wasn't so fortunate. She shrieked as the brightly coloured beam struck it head-on, enveloping it in an eerie, sickly colour. Before their very eyes, her body shrank, morphing into a Boo-shaped piece of chocolate, transfigured into edible goodness, its features contorted in fearful agony. The original scurried over and snatched it up, grinning like a happy child who'd just been told they could have dessert for breakfast. Holding aloft her prize, she giggled in triumph, pink eyes wide with glee. Now me eat bad Boo! Before anyone could think to stop her, she tossed the tasty morsel into her mouth and began chewing. Naruto blanched. Oi, maybe that's not a good too late. Yummy! She swallowed the candy in a single gulp. Are you that's good for you? Naruto questioned, feeling a sudden stab of guilt. She had just eaten her dark half personified. Who knew what the side effects might be? Boo seemed to consider that. Boo doesn't feel any different. It came out as a question, of all things. Oh. He deflated slightly, relieved. Well, good. Why you help Boo? The bubblegum girl inquired, drifting closer. Why? A bit of his old childhood self resurfaced at her question. Dunno. Seemed the right thing to do. And it had. When forced to choose between a Boo that was a remorseless killing or a naive little girl, he would all but gladly choose the latter, every time. Besides, there was a certain charm to this one, an immutable innocence and stubborn drive, one that readily reminded him of his younger days. Sure, she had a temper, but who didn't? He himself had a bit of an anger problem at times. Boo like you, she declared. Will you be Boo's friend? Naruto nearly melted beneath those wide puppy dog eyes. Despite his anxiety, the shinobi actually felt himself chuckle. I don't see why not. That was all he managed before Boo's face contorted in sudden agony. Ow! She cried, clutching her head. It hurts! She wailed, falling to her knees. Why does Boo's head hurt again? Make it stop! Hurts! Desperate, pain-branched eyes turned upon the remaining Z-fighters as though they could somehow alleviate her of the crushing migraine that threatened to consume her. Hurts! Make it stop! Her eyes sought Naruto's, frantically. Please! Naruto reached forward. Scalding steam shrieked itself free from the pores on her body, scorching his hand and rapidly obscuring the writhing Majin from view. Yelping, the Super Saiyan withdrew, clutching his hand. Gah! Smoke that could actually burn him? Oh, this wasn't good. The black M of her belt glared out at him in condemnation, burning an eerie red as he peered into the strange pink plume. Oi, Boo, can you hear me? When the smoke finally cleared, the Majin stood transformed. She looked much the same as before, but the vest and gloves had all but vanished, taking the cape with them. Not only had she grown several inches standing almost taller than Broly himself, and gained a fair bit of muscle, but she seemed to have all but abandoned her childish get-up altogether. A pair of black wristbands and an equally wide black band across her chest concealed her modesty, as did a pair of ruffled white pants and dark boots. Nothing more, nothing less. Restless eyes roamed across each of the assembled fighters before finally locking upon Naruto with frightening intensity. Naruto's sweat dropped. What? Just happened? Bolt echoed, watching from afar with wide, trembling eyes. She fought with herself, I guess, and her power went through the roof. Now look at her. She's different. She's changed somehow. She's become someone else completely. Worse than that, she's completely out of my league. I don't like the look of this. Still seems the same to me, 18 remarked, watching the now somewhat taller Majin dance in place. Whatever that confrontation was, someone obviously won. Got a nice boost out of it too, I think. But is she in control? Bolt challenged. Dunno, the android admitted. Do you think she's stronger than... He couldn't finish the thought. 18 grimaced. We'll see. All eyes fell upon this strange new form. Well, shit, Naruto mused. Her power's gone way up. She might be an actual threat now. As if to echo that thought, the new Boo raised her arms and yawned. Naruto's shoulders fell slack. Huh? Heh. Boo closed her eyes and grinned cheerily, flashing a gloveless hand in victory. Boo won. Stronger now. Boo win this time. Her voice had changed remarkably as well, it seemed, more resembling the slight, husky tone of a young woman than a girl. Beyond that, her personality remained almost utterly unchanged. It was rather amusing, really. Naruto chuckled, pleasantly surprised by this turn of events. Okay, what? He guffawed openly, shaking his head. What the hell happened? I was actually worried about you for a sec there. What you mean? Me Boo. Always been Boo. She paused, considering. Ah, a fist smacked into her open palm. Not Boo, Super Boo. The bubblegum woman grinned impishly, planting both hands on her hips, looking mightily proud of herself in her cunning. Like Super Saiyajin. A pin could have dropped in the silence that followed. Then, ha! Naruto tumbled to the floor, clutching his sides in a vain attempt to stave off the sudden fit of laughter. Boo jumped, badly startled. Why you fall down? Because I'm laughing, you dolt! Oh, the boy's not going to like this. One could hear Bolter's jaw drop and shatter against the floor from his distant perch. Bahahaha! 18's distant laugh reached them moments later. What's so funny? Your face! Ah! So, Naruto sniffed, dabbing a mirthful tear from his eyes. Super Boo! Huh, sounds appropriate. Well, if you really want round two, you there! Stop! Stop this at once! Fraught with tension from multiple battles and the potential loss of one comrade already, the empowered blonde nearly blasted the newcomers right then and there without asking who they were. Even after he saw their gaudy robes and took in their strange appearance, he nearly did the deed regardless. In any case, there was an odd aura about both of them, with their strangely coloured skin, pointed earrings, and spectacularly coloured hair. All in all, they looked like nothing and no one he'd ever seen. Boo blinked. Who you? What she said. Naruto agreed, raising his fists. Who the hell are you two? Allow me to introduce the Supreme Kai. The red-skinned, larger of the two intoned gravelly, indicating his purple compatriot. You would do well to heed his words. The Super Saiyan merely craned his neck. Depends. What's he got to say? You must listen to me, he began slowly. That creature before you is not some harmless waif. It is Majin Buu, right? The man's jaw clenched. I figured as much. Naruto sighed. In which case, you're a bit late to the party. We already killed Babidi and his minions. All of them? Yep. But how did you know I've had just about enough of you, little man? 18 drifted closer, her blue eyes leering icy daggers at the Kai duo. You've got some nerve telling us what to do. Shin retreated a step. And who is this? My wife. Don't bother trying to sway her. I'm fairly certain she agrees with me on this. As to the answer to your first question, time travel. Naruto jerked a thumb over his shoulder. My boy came back to warn us of a threat. Turns out Boo was part of it, but it wasn't this Boo, you know. You know how it is. Someone comes back to the past to change the future. Multiverse theory, blah, blah, blah. Then you understand. Hope dawned on the Shinjin's visage. She needs to be eradicated before... No. What? You come here to my planet, and the first thing you do is start barking orders. Did you expect me to listen to you? Naruto shook his head. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to tend to my friend over here. Make sure he isn't dead. You don't understand, the small man pleaded. This entity is Majin Buu. She is evil. She needs to be destroyed. You think one death is bad? She'll take millions more and never be satisfied. You alone have the power to stop this. You must. I refuse, the blonde said point blank. There's no honor in killing an innocent. If she loses her temper again, I'll just stomp it out like I did before. She doesn't need to die for that. Who are you people? The Supreme Kai cried. Don't you see the universe matters more than your meaningless honor? She is no innocent. She needs to be destroyed. Naruto twitched. Uh-oh. 18 sighed. What? Shin blinked. What did I do? You pushed the honor button there, buddy, she drawled. You shouldn't have done that. Meaningless, you say? Golden eyes snapped to the Kai. It was then that Shin knew. He'd fucked up. Spend most of your life scratching and clawing just to exist. To survive! Naruto roared, hurling his aura in all directions. Watch your friends and family wither away beneath the whims of a madwoman with a god complex. Then some other madman decides to play God, bring you back from the dead to serve as his plaything. And then tell me what has more meaning than your own values. A firm finger thrust itself forward in denial. And this is mine, do you hear me? Boo blinked. Mine? I am not a murderer. Naruto snarled back at the Kai, his voice growing hoarse. I do not kill in cold blood, and I do not fight to appease the whims of others. I fight to protect. I am a defender, not some brute for you to order about. And who are you do tell me what to do, Tabayo? I fought an actual goddess, a being who could reshape reality on a whim. Not some piss-poor excuse for a guardian. So unless you've got a whole lot of power hidden away where I can't sense it, you're not going to make us do anything. You fool! Are you really willing to— If you want her dead that badly, then you do it. Shin winced at the explosive shout. His eyes drifted to the Majin, who until now had remained silent. She tilted her head to wave at him, and he nearly yelped. I can't. He couldn't. In his heart, he couldn't do it. He couldn't bring himself to commit suicide by fighting a being of immeasurable power, a force neither he nor Kibito had any chance of defeating. This was a trick, he told himself. A facade erected only to fool these powerful warriors. The alternative was unacceptable, and he'd lost to it. Lost before he'd ever truly begun. Perhaps had he been present from the beginning of this grand mess as he'd originally planned, events might have progressed differently. He might have had a chance to convince, then leave. Naruto replied, his voice stony. As far as I'm concerned, you have no business here. You will regret this, Shin warned, raising a hand. Countless dead will be on your conscience, all because you failed to stop this abominaton. Naruto's palms snapped up, cradling a full-sized Rasen shuriken. Leave, short stack. I won't say it again. Very well. Let us go, Kibito. In a flash of instantaneous movement, the duo vanished from the face of the earth. Naruto hoped they'd never come back, but he had the distinct feeling the Supreme Kai wasn't going to let this go. No matter. Not like he had any concerns about what the little bastard thought of him anyway. Well, 18 pursed her lips. Congratulations. You managed to piss off a god. Again. Hey, not my fault. He was being a dick. And besides, King Kai's cool. Sorry about beating you up earlier, Boo. He chuckled, relaxing into his base state. I got a bit carried away. So, what now? Once more, all eyes fell to the Majin. Boo, stay, she decided. But can Boo have ice cream? Naruto's gaze snapped to 18. Or can we keep her? Are we going to attack? Toa watched the scene for a moment more, considering her creation's question. This wasn't the same Boo that had slain her brother. This was something else. She wasn't sure she understood what. But no, in this timeline, Dabura had fallen to an even more hated foe. Naruto. It was strange, after all, she'd been through seeing the man responsible for so much misery on her part, alive and well. He was aware of them, too. She had no doubt about that. The one that had sealed them had been weaker, crippled, but this whiskered warrior was in his prime and surrounded by strong allies, no less. Her attempt had already been made to control the darkness inside this Boo, and she'd failed. Miserably. Even Mira was not made nor meant to succeed against such odds. Naruto, however, there was a shadow lurking deep within that one, a darkness that threatened to swallow the world. No, she said at last, we won't. What do you mean, no? Mira growled. I can destroy them easily. Not today, my pet. Not today. I had 5 minutes and a senzu bean later. The hell did we miss? Naruto craned his neck to survey the shattered scene surrounding them and gawped quietly, because when last he'd looked, the World Tournament hadn't been this torn, angry mess. Someone had blasted much of the arena itself to rubble. Parts of it were melted entirely to slag. Others had simply been vaporized outright by great and powerful forces. Whomever had fought here, they'd given it their all and then some, judging by that collapsed roof to the west, the ruined crater in the east, and last but not least, the ruined area of stands in the west. Someone had fought, all right. They'd fought hard. You missed Goku and Vegeta, that's what, Krillin quipped, rubbing the back of his still-bruised noggin as they gazed at the ruined arena. They finally took their fight elsewhere about an hour ago. King Kai's place, I think. They're probably still going at it. The kids wanted to watch a real fight, and Zangya and Videl volunteered to chaperone, so… Wait, 18 interrupted, eyes gleaming with avarice. Who's left then? Samui's sulking around here somewhere. The monk shrugged. Wait, who's the new girl? Naruto's gaze shifted to the eager yet still entirely too nervous form of Boo hiding in the corner. Naruto looked over his shoulder. An entity of absolute power who was supposed to be evil, but we kept her just because, he said all too quickly. Huh, Krillin blinked. Neat, glad I missed that one. Anything else? Naruto asked. You mean from the junior division? At the couple's puzzled looks, he hastened to explain. They kinda had to hold if after you guys bailed. Let's see. Right, Hinata won. By a landslide. Ha! The blonde beamed, delighted in her daughter. Knew it. Wait, what about the adult division? Naruto cried. You can't tell me they cancelled it. Well, Samui forfeited to Vegeta, and with you three gone, Gohan was the only one left. The android flashed a roguish grin. Is that so? Gohan jumped up from the bench as all eyes turned to him. Unfortunately, in doing so, he nearly sent Lime flying from her place in his lap, and didn't that make for quite a scene? Unfortunately, both blondes looking at him was more than enough to kick his survival instincts into high overdrive. He knew that shared look. That look was nothing good. Never mind, the tall shadow they were so obviously working to hide behind them, the sheer amount of menace in that one look was enough to chill his bones and make him forget all about the newcomer. Oh no! We are not doing this. Doing what? Naruto smiled. It was all teeth. Can we not? Since when do you back down from a fight? 18 posited. I thought you'd kept up with your training. I have, the warrior scholar protested, flushing. It's just a fight between two Super Saiyan 4s would wreck everything and crap baskets. He immediately realized his verbal gaffe when Naruto bolted upright from his perch against the wall, eyes round as saucers. Did I say that out loud? Wait, since when did you… Whatever else he might have said trailed off as Samui finally made her presence known. Why'd you run off like that? She asked, annoyed as she stepped around the booth. Very uncool. Naruto promptly swore. Samui blinked. What? Boo tried to shrink away to nothingness in the corner with her ice cream cone. Considering how tall she'd gotten, that was something on an impossibility. What'd I miss? Don't be mad, the whiskered blonde blathered. Wait. Why would I be? Alas, the Majin chose that moment to make herself known. Boo! Sweet baby Jesus, what is that? Time marched on, as it always does. Days blended into weeks and weeks into months. New life came into the world and new friends returned to their place in time. And for a time, all was well, until destruction itself awoke and rained down hell. Some months later, Hakaishin Temple halfway across the known universe. Time to wake up, Lord Beerus. Whiz waited patiently, staring up at the inverted pyramid as the timer counted down to its final seconds. He'd timed his arrival to mere minutes before the bombs placed in the chamber went off. With so many of them in the cavernous chamber, they'd certainly be raising a ruckus. Any moment now, 3, 2, 1. Bakram! And there they were. The first alarm went off with a deafening bang, showering the sleeping being with debris. Mwah! A half-hearted yawn answered from atop the pyramid. Go away, Whis. M's sleep in here. Another thunderous crash drowned the deity out. I know you can ignore the alarm bells if you choose, Lord Beerus. Whis called up to his master, his voice peaking in the cavernous space. Shall I sing you a song, then? The reaction was as swift as it was immediate, sharp, and poignant. Nigger! Not that. Anything but that. Don't sing. Whis chuckled, watching works every time. So hungry, Tilda. The unlikely pair were now seated at a long table stocked with all manner of edible delights, of which Beerus partook with the frenzy of man who hadn't eaten in, well, years. But what made the room truly spectacular, however, was that it was something of a large aquarium as well, filled with exotic fish from around the galaxy. Is there a particular reason you wanted me to wake you up so soon? Whis inquired at last. Right, that. The feline narrowly covered a jaw-popping yawn with a clawed hand. Barely counted as a nap. I think it had something to do with the science. We may have to swing by and destroy planet Vegeta later today. Then you'll be heartened to know Frieza already did it for you. He did? I may have to do something about that entitled little bugger soon. I'm afraid someone beat you to that as well. Whis corrected him politely. A Saiyan. Huh? By way of answer, Whis raised his staff. A wave of incandescent green light poured from its center jewel, consuming the room in a rough rectangle before projecting a screen before them. As such, Beerus found himself treated to a rather spectacular scene, one long since forgotten. Namek splayed itself out before them, portraying the vivid scene of Frieza's defeat at the hands of one Son Goku. A few survived, came the reply as they observed. They're actually quite numerous now, these Super Saiyans. What was that? Beerus blinked sleepily, shifting restlessly in his chair. Super Saiyan! Super Saiyan! God! He exclaimed mightily. That's it. I remember it now. Super Saiyan God. I had a dream about it. Veritably, dancing with excitement, the cat god all but flung himself out of the chair, cackling. A dream in which I fought an opponent just like that one. Your dreams aren't exactly the most precise, Beerus-sama, his attendant warned. Bah, of course they... Yellow eyes blinked, regarding the last figure in the image. What about that one? Who's he? Ah, that's Naruto, Whis explained, focusing the image. He's responsible for taming Majin Buu. Taming? Indeed, his attendant chuckled. I dare say he's the strongest of the bunch. He has a strange proficiency for turning enemies into allies, that one. Bit of a stick in the mud when it comes to his values, though. Why, a few months ago he threatened to kill a Kai for trying to order him about. It might have something to do with the manner of his revival, I suppose. He often refers to himself as a ninja, despite being anything but. Ho? The Hakaishin's ear twitched. Just what is he, then? Something in between, it seems. Beerus paused to consider that for a moment. The one who defeated Frieza, where is he now? Let's see. I believe he's on the Northern Kai's planet. Minutes later on Earth. Wake up! Gah! Naruto snapped upright with a startled snort, blue eyes bursting open. The sounds of music and merriment gradually filtered into his ears, reminding him of where when he was. Ah, right. The party. Bulma's party. For some birthday or some such. 18 and the others had dragged him to this, insisting that the social interaction would be good for him, if not poor Boo. She could almost speak in full sentences these days when she wasn't too terribly excited. They'd had to drag him along, kicking and screaming. Despite his best efforts and the delight of doting on his 2 newborn sons, he hadn't been paying attention. Instead of joining in the festivities, he accidentally fallen asleep in the shade of a palm tree. He was doing a lot of that lately, sleeping. As if the more powerful he became, the more he exhausted himself and whatever that damn madman had used to revive him in the first place. Senzu beans weren't enough to energize him these days. Denda's healing took the edge off sometimes, but even that was beginning to dull the more he visited the young guardian. Did this body have a limit? Would he shatter once he reached it? It was a troubling thought. Took you long enough? The voice jarred him back to wakefulness. King Kai. The one and only! Now listen up. I'm going to tell Vegeta this, but since you're such a troublemaker, I figured I'd better warn you first. Warn me? He tilted his head, gazing up at the heavens. Just listen, you blockhead. The nasally voice snapped. The Earth is in danger. When is it not? I am serious. All right, jeez. Continue. A terrible force is about to appear before. A being known as Lord Beerus. The god of destruction! You have to avoid angering him at all costs. A god? I'm not afraid of gods. That cheeky bugger can go stuff himself. King Kai bristled. Oh, now you don't. Not you. Don't go there. Don't you even dare. He ranted, and despite their distance, the blonde could almost swear the rotund blue deity was frothing at the mouth. I know you think you're pretty tough, but he'll chew you up and spit you out. Trust me on this. Super Saiyan 3 Goku got annihilated in 2 hits, and you're not that much stronger than him these days. What rock have you been hiding under? I'll have you know, Gohan and I have gotten pretty damn Natilda, Rutilda, Tutilda. Oh, forget it, King Kai groaned. You're hopeless! Maybe Vegeta will actually listen to me. His mental link found itself abruptly severed as a pink blur cannoned into him, squishing him up against the tree. For a fleeting instant, his body tensed, relaxing only when something warm and soft squished up against his chest. Blinking, he turned his gaze, only to find himself staring into a pair of dark magenta eyes. Found you. Majin Buu grinned back at him, still clinging to his arm. Why were you hiding? I wasn't hiding, he protested. Then why couldn't I sense you at all, boss? She tilted her head in challenge, the loose motion causing her antennae to slap against her slim back. The already lengthy appendage had grown much longer in the last few months, stretching nearly all the way to her backside. And she was wearing a frilly blue sundress of all things. These days she looked downright normal, considering. One of the most feared women in the galaxy. In a dress! It was just a shame that so many had to pay the price for the sentience that came with it. By the time they realized that, in her newfound quest for knowledge, Boo had absorbed some of the most outstanding minds the world over from everything, including martial artists all the way the greatest scientists. It was already too late to do anything about it. Boo didn't or wouldn't know how to release them, and they were equally loath to force her to at any rate. They could only chastise the Majin, reminding her that it was very, very wrong to do and make her swear never to do it again. She hadn't taken a single soul since. Still, knowledge didn't necessarily translate to life experience or fighting power, however, so she was still very much learning. For the life of him, however, he couldn't understand why she insisted on calling him boss. But it had stuck and so had she, so here they were. And she was hugging him. Bo? I want to cuddle, she declared boldly, nuzzling his hose with hers. You've been so distant lately. Why, hello there, a soft, high voice declared. Are we interrupting? He found himself face to face with the unusual pair that immediately put him on edge. A tall fellow who looked like a clown, and a walking, talking cat. That they both looked utterly ridiculous didn't help in the least. You wouldn't happen to be Naruto by any chance, would you? The taller of the two asked. Naruto turned his head slightly. And if I am? That other Saiyan, what was his name? Ah, Goku! He smacked a closed fist into his palm, grinning. He told us you're stronger than him, so you'd be the best one to ask. Before Naruto could reply, the purple catman drifted closer on an invisible wave of ki, staring down at him intently, golden eyes boring into his own. Are you the Super Saiyan god? Battle lust. Naruto felt it crash down on him all at once, emanating from this one being, killing intent, the like of which he'd never experienced before in his life, even against Kaguya. An overwhelming desire to fight, to rip, to rend, to destroy. Oi! Personal space there, buddy, he barked, backing away. I know a lot about Super Saiyans, but I've never heard of this god you're talking about. Oh, the feline deflated slightly. Pity. I suppose we'll just have to ask around. Careful with Broly. Naruto called at his retreating back. He's a good guy now, but he's still got a bit of a temper. Speaking of temper, Naruto. Vidal's voice chimed from far off. Bolt's diaper needs changing again. Why am I always on diaper duty, Tebayo? Because you love your son? One might wonder how Bolt had come to be at all in this timeline. With the threat dispatched, you'd think his future parents would go their separate ways and their son would simply fade out of existence. Wrong. Naruto had given his elder progeny a long, hard 3 months of fierce training, coupled with several days in and out of the hyperbolic time chamber. The results had been most pleasing. He'd made certain the boy could reach and control Super Saiyan 4 before sending him on his way to face the threats in his own era. And then acted to make absolutely certain he'd still exist at the end of the day. It hadn't been hard. There had always been tension between him and Videl, even more after they were denied their match at the World Tournament. It was simply a matter of finding the right way to breach said tension. A bottle of sake helped nicely, he'd found. A few drinks, and, well, said tension simply became too much. One drunken night later, and his future son's existence was accidentally assured. It hadn't taken them long to realize they weren't right for each other. Videlle's attraction to him had always been a physical one, and after Bolt's, she was too focused on her new duties as a mother, while trying to become as strong as she could be to maintain anything resembling a relationship. Their shared son kept them close. Regardless, they were still the best of friends. They simply had a child together, that was all. And Videlle delighted in forcing him into changing all those messes. Reluctantly, he allowed Boo to lead him back to the festivities and the dirty diapers that awaited. He figured it was the least he could do. "There you are, Daddy," Hinata cried, beaming. "Yo," he waved weakly. "Quick, kids, grab him. 18 declared. Before he runs off again. Look, that really isn't necessac." Remarkably, the rest of the party went off without a hitch. Beerus and Whis soon found themselves all too wrapped up in sweetmeats and all other manner of delicious food to remember their search for the Super Saiyan god. Vegeta went to extraordinary lengths to ensure that they stayed that way, throwing away his pride more than once, if only to appease the Hakaishin's wrath. Naruto felt his respect for the prince climb 3 times that day. First, when he ran interference between him and the naturally inquisitive children. Second, as he fielded the occasional question about the strength of Saiyans, all the while without snapping at him. The last when he outright danced and sang to avoid sheer destruction because of some annoying little hoodlums. And Naruto? He had the express pleasure of introducing Lord Beerus to ramen. To his great delight, the Hakaishin took to it quite nicely, and, as his fellow brother in broth, Naruto felt it was his duty to educate the god of destruction on all things noodles. He actually proved himself to be a rather cheery fellow, if a bit haughty at times. Still, anyone who'd a taste for ramen couldn't be all that bad, right? Right? Alas, then came the pudding. "Oh, what's that?" Beerus asked, peering at a nearby table. Naruto followed his gaze with a lazy eye, shrugging as he found Boo there, happily enjoying her long-awaited dessert. "That? It's called pudding." "Pudding?" The Hakaishin was already on his feet, hastening to the table. "Sounds delicious. You, there. Boo, was it? Would you spare a cup?" The Majin looked him up and down darkly, scowled. "No." "No?" "Boo," Naruto intervened, claiming a seat beside her and placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're supposed to share." "But I don't want to," she whined, clutching the dish close to her bosom. "I haven't had any all week." "Come on, do you really need all of it?" "Yes." "Look," he offered, "I'll trade you anything you want." She paused, seemed to consider that. "Anything?" Naruto nodded. "Then I want a baby." Naruto fell right out of his chair. "What? What?" Everyone shrieked. "Boo," he replied in a strangled voice, climbing to his feet. Now is neither the time nor place for that." "But everyone else has one." "Just not right now, okay?" "Then the pudding is mine," she declared emphatically. Beerus snarled, grabbing her by the shoulder. "Give me the pudding!" "Never. All pudding belongs to me." Boo replied by downing the whole plate at once, downing it in a single gulp. The empty platter clattered to the table, empty. "Now leave me alone," she snapped. "Or I'll make you candy." Vegeta snapped to his feet. "Oh, you've got to be—" An ominous silence fell over the party. Beerus's growl shattered it utterly. "You've made me angry." Awash in purple light, he glowered at the Majin responsible for ruining his meal. "You." The word was a hiss, a lone finger rising. "Begone." A flick of his fingers sent Boo careening into the lake. "Get him!" Roshi cried. All hell broke loose. What followed was a rousing game of sit your ass down, with Beerus handily taking on all comers. Each attack was met with a mere modicum of force, a swipe of chopsticks to incapacitate Tien, the tiniest of Ki-Eyes to flatten Piccolo and Krillin against the ground. A flick of the wrist to send Broly, followed by the rest of his family, crashing through the tables onto the stage. Athene and Samui fared slightly better, flanking from the right in a vain attempt to crush him, only to find they themselves crushed, hurled to the ground in a heap. Damn it, no point in holding back now. Vegeta lasted far longer than the rest with his initial outburst of rage, but even he too was quickly overcome. The freshly fused and hopelessly overconfident Gotenks was next to be sent tumbling to the ground, followed by Bra, each clutching their beaten backsides. Before Beerus could complete his revolution and pounce upon, however, he found himself inexplicably bound, frozen in midair. Ha! Yellow eyes snapped to the cause of his predicament, narrowing to angry saffron slits. Somehow, Zangia and Zell had managed to sneak up on him in the chaos. Now, their hands fully extended, each had him securely bound in energy bonds, holding on for dear life. Hold him! Is that it? The energy bonds lasted all of a moment more as the feline ripped himself free. Then, tugging on the decaying threads, he hauled mother and daughter both into his waiting claws and slammed into the ground, cratering it furiously. Neither rose again. Still, the notion that they'd actually stopped him, if only for a moment, it was galling. Humiliating? What could you two possibly hope to accomplish with that? Zangia flashed a bloody grin. Just buying time. Time for what? Futil de Sion, huh? Rounding on his heel, the Hakaishin turned just in time to swatch Atsui and Akatane complete their own dance. Ha! A blinding light issued forth as the two girls collided, merging into one. The bright, angry eyes of a Super Saiyan 3 glowered back at him, burning with wild green fire. Unlike Gotenks, she seemed to understand the sheer severity of the situation, for she immediately cupped her hands and flared her aura, preparing her strongest attack. "You'll pay for hurting our parents," the now fused warrior declared. "A Kamehameha. Bah, your power's puny." Puny? A hand sliced down on her neck from behind, driving her to the ground in a senseless heap. The contained energies around her guttered out as one, reverting to their base state. As I said, puny. With that in short order, only Gohan and Naruto remained. Hinata shrank back, seeking shelter behind her father, whimpering. "Daddy," she sniffled, "I'm scared." The two remaining warriors exchanged a worried glance. Both had hung back, unwilling to get involved. Clearly that had been a mistake. "Don't suppose you remember the steps for that fusion dance of theirs?" The blonde muttered under his breath to Gohan. "He just took out all our family and friends without breaking a sweat. Not gonna lie, I'm really not looking forward to fighting him like this. Didn't think he'd be this strong." "Sorry," his fellow Saiyan shrugged helplessly. "I don't." "Damn." All right, on 3. Power up as much as you can. I'll go high, you go low. Aren't you two going to talk all day? Beerus asked, drifting closer. Naruto drew back half a step. "Sorry," he apologized. "Just planning our strategy." "Fine," the cat god yawned. "Tell you what. If you beat me, I'll... I know. If you beat me, I won't destroy your planet. How's that for a reward? What, blow up the Earth? Our kids could do that if they wanted. Is that supposed to be a threat or oomph?" The breath rushed out of Naruto's throat in a strangled gasp as a tight fist slid beneath his guard and smashed into his unprotected stomach, driving the wind from his lungs in a single blow. His legs gave out beneath him, rotten struts collapsing, leaving him to tumble to his hands and knees. He'd never felt such power before in all his life. Vegeta, Cell, Broly, Dabura, even Boo's strength paled in comparison to the soul-shattering strength he'd just experienced. "No," the Hakaishin informed him coldly, planting a foot on his back. "It's a promise." "That's enough." "Get off me, you idiot!" Naruto barely heard or saw Gohan struggle at all. What the hell is this guy? I wasn't at my max, but that blow, the power behind it. Then, rising over the pain, he heard a shriek. You hurt Naruto. Boo mad, Beerus scoffed. "Get as angry as you like. It won't make any difference. I held back last time. This time I won't make the same mistake." "I boo make you dead." Growling, she pounded her fists together. What Boo say, Boo do? With a war cry on her lips, she lunged. "No," Naruto choked. "Don't!" Too late. In a single contemptuous gesture, the Hakaishin rendered Boo into harmless atoms. Then he destroyed even those. Naruto froze, gazing into the fading wisps of pink smoke, his mouth hanging open. What did you just do?" "She was in the way, so I destroyed her," Beerus replied, lowering his hand and turning away. "It's what she gets for messing with a god of destruction? Don't worry. I probably did you a favor, eliminating someone like her. You never would have been able to control her anyway." The blonde's jaw snapped shut, muscles clenching. "You monster? How could you? That's She was just, "Nobody hits my bow!" Exploding into Super Saiyan 3, Naruto lunged at him. Bastard! What? The blow came with blinding speed, so much so that the Hakaishin wasn't entirely able to fully turn, let alone dodge it in time. A thin slice of minor discomfort registered in his right cheek as the golden blur hurtled past him, unchecked. A thrown kick, brimming with rage, scraped his chin, narrowly evaded. Despite his initial surprise, the Hakaishin grinned. Beerus laughed, delighted. Not bad. You actually managed to scratch me a little. Let's see if you can do better than your friends. Even then, with his guard raised, he somehow managed to completely miss what came next. Naruto's body simply phased out of existence, vanishing moments before his booted heel would have made contact. Clenched knuckles came barreling into his face from the left side, crunching against his nose before slamming his startled visage down into the ground. Still holding the god captive in his hand, the howling Super Saiyan raced forward, dragging the length of his body across the Capsule Corp grounds, roaring his lungs out and hurling him away into the air. A double-handed hammer blow sent him crashing back to the earth. That is enough! Beerus's heel shot up, catching him in the chin, tossing him away. Naruto's only response was an incoherent howl. Once more he lunged, right into Beerus's waiting fist. All resistance was crushed out of him in an instant, his broken body left to tumble to the floor in a shattered heap. It put the last blow to shame. It wasn't even in the same league. Hinata cried out, sobbing as her father fell, eyes blank. "Daddy! No! No, no, no!" Small hands pushed at the prone form to no avail. "Get up!" she pleaded with him. "You have to get up!" No pudding, and the Super Saiyan god isn't here. Beerus' pallid features darkened in a scowl as he quietly ascended above the wailing lass. "If that's all, I think we're done here." "Whis! We're leaving. I'm destroying this planet once and for all." "Just a moment, Tilda." "Hey!" Hinata bolted to her feet with a snarl, aura burning. I'll get you for this." "You'll see." "I very much doubt that." Crunch. "Where the hell do you think you're going?" Beerus frowned, his dark gaze sliding back to the slowly rising body behind him. Hinata froze. "Daddy!" "You're getting up already?" A clawed hand scratched his cheek, negligently pawing the red line there, the lone wound inflicted upon him. "I already told you this Super 3 of yours isn't interesting anymore. If you're not going to show me the Super Saiyan God this time, then I'll just destroy your planet." "Fine." "Fine?" "I said fine," came the growl as his foe stood. "No choice now. I really didn't want to use this, but if there's anything capable of challenging a god..." "Oh?" he mused, watching the hybrid revert to his base state. "You mean to say you were holding back all this time? Shame on you." "Pretty much." The battered blonde loosed a laugh that hollow even to his ears. "I make no excuses. You got me. Were you trying to die, fool?" "I don't use it because I don't like what it makes me become." Green eyes locked on his, weary jade slits regarding him intently. "You see, I'm not like other Saiyans. Never was. I'm not natural. I was rebuilt from the ground up by a madman who never gave thought to the consequences of bringing back the dead. He got his wish. He made a monster. This power is the ultimate personification of that wish. Jiro called it perfection, a superior state of being without flaw or error. I tasted it once, before, and worked to bring it out in its entirety since. That still doesn't explain why you held back." Naruto's face twisted. "It isn't me and I hate it as if it were. It makes me a monster, a filthy bag of secrets, a beast, hiding inside me for 7 years now." Beerus bristled in anticipation. Perhaps this trip wouldn't be wasted after all. "Show me." "Your funeral." Raising both arms, he crossed them before his face, falling into a crouch. "I'll just skip 4 and get right to the good stuff then. Don't blame me if you die." Beerus blinked. "Wait, what do you mean 4? Naruto staunchly ignored the baffled deity, instead turning his eyes to his eldest. Dropping to a knee, he placed a hand atop her head, gently ruffling her hair. His little girl. His sweet, blessed, beautiful baby girl. He was so damn proud of her. She'd make one hell of a fighter someday. But not today. But this wasn't her fight to finish. "Hinata?" Wide eyes looked up at him, lip quivering. "Yes, Daddy?" "I need you to listen to me now," he said slowly, staring deep into her eyes. "It's very important, do you understand?" Her head bobbed. "What do you need me to do?" I want you to use instant transmission and take everyone far, far away from here, he instructed gravely. Take them to King Kai's place. Don't worry, I know you're strong enough to do it. I trained you myself. When your mother wakes up, and she will, I want you to tell her, he paused, sighing. Tell her I love her, and everyone very, very much. The little fighter felt her heart lurch, understanding dawning in her eyes. Why can't you tell her that? Here his smile finally broke. Sweetheart. His hands laid themselves on her shoulders, holding tight. Daddy's going to go away for a while. But I'll come back someday. I promise. Now. Naruto straightened, his aura darkening. Run. With a deep breath, he gathered his energy. Then he let go of it all. Everyone. Everything. Blue eyes burned black. There was no controlled release of power, no simple power-up to herald this transformation. A wall of red and gold ki rose up around him, hard enough to make the very world shake. Unlike its counterparts, this sudden transformation was surprisingly brief. No drawn-out theatrics, no lengthy screaming. Just a short, raw shout. And then it was done. He stood there as the smoke frittered away, scowling. The god of destruction looked on in quiet curiosity. Observing these new changes from afar, the Super Saiyan stood a head taller than before and appeared slightly more muscular than he remembered. More notably, deep, ebon fur akin to the shade of a moonless night stretched from below his wrists to well past his shoulders. In place of the once lone tail he'd carried with pride, the blonde now bore 9, each bearing the same colours and significantly longer. Not resembling that of a monkey's at all, but another beast's altogether. Even his ears had changed to reflect this, red fur-like protrusions standing where they'd once existed. They reminded him of a fox, eyes like molten fire set against black sclera bored into him, cold and angry. His once golden hair had lost its luster and become an entirely different shade altogether, neither gold nor black, the spiked silvery tresses stretching down and up around his head like an angry porcupine, bristling with energy. That once whiskered visage had lost its easy smile, a once soft face changed entirely. As thought it had been chiseled from the hardest of forged steel, bearing the look of a wild animal in a blood rage. There was one other change, one which the burning sparks around him quickly pointed out. Most notable all was the immense increase in power. That once tiny candle of ki had become a roaring flame, unstable, wild. Whatever it wasn't quite God ki. But it was close. It wasn't quite what humans called ki. This was something new. And Beerus wasn't entirely sure he liked the way it felt. It was close. Very close. Is this demigod ki? I never thought a mortal could achieve it. Impressive. What do you call this form? Naruto grunted, his jaw clenching with difficulty to speak. In the end, only one word emerged. 5. Super Saiyan 5? The Hakaishin sneered, grinning as a stray spark etched itself between them. Well then, I hope you put on a good... That was all he managed before a clenched fist barreled into his face from below, hurling him into the air like a rag doll. For a fleeting moment, the god of destruction was absolutely helpless. Powerless as a newborn, he possessed no control over his flailing form, helpless to anything but howl as his body spun end over end. Then the moment passed and he regained control of his body once more, slightly shaken. Pain! He'd felt pain. For perhaps the first time in a century, he'd actually been hurt. What power was this? It wasn't Kai. It was something else. Again, by some instinct, he raised both arms before his face. It saved his life. Ha! That was the only warning he received before a pillar of red light rocked up to greet him, obliterating the clouds to barrel into his folded limbs with all the force of an angry typhoon. Searing through his defenses to scorch his elbows, the beam roared past, driving him high into the clouds as he struggled to push against it, to no avail, until finally he felt its owner's energy begin to flag. Maria! With a supreme effort, Beerus righted himself, heaving the beam away into the sky and shaking the stars from his vision. The explosion reached him moments later, staining the sky scarlet. Glowering, he raised a hand, ready to rain down destruction upon this Super Saiyan for startling him so... Gone. The smoke cleared to reveal an empty crater devoid of life and fallen fighters both. Where'd he go, chomp? Sharpened fangs sank into his right arm with immeasurable pressure, biting deep enough to pierce muscle and scratch bone. Yow! Yelping like a scalded cat, Beerus flailed away from the blinding pain in his forearm, only to find it moved with him. Naruto! The mad fool had actually bitten him. Get off! He roared, striking at the frenzied scion with his good hand, to no avail. Naruto and his teeth would not be moved. It wasn't until he blasted the stubborn scion thrice in the face that the he-berserker finally gasped and let go, tumbling away to the earth. Beerus shot after him in a blaze of purple light, only to find his speed outmatched yet again. Zip. A brutal blow snapped into his spine with all the force of a raging semi, batting him towards the ground with contemptuous ease. An angry hiss echoed in his ear, echoed by an unfamiliar whirring sound. Rasen Shuriken. Burdened as he was by the falling star, the Hakaishin hurtling forward like a shooting star unable to slow his momentum in time. All too quickly the ground rushed up to greet him, arms spread wide like a long-lost friend. No, Tilda! Storm! The capsule corp building violently imploded in a flash of white light, obliterating the dome-like structure in a mushroom cloud of massive proportions that devastated the surrounding area for miles in every direction. A nearby city experienced only the briefest of muted flashes before the shockwaves struck leveling buildings indiscriminately on a nuclear scale. Bodies turned to ash as the city buster continued to spread without showing any signs of stopping, its victims shredded apart on the cellular level. Wiz observed the destruction from afar with a pensive expression, watching gravely as the attack finally guttered out, leaving only a shredded ruin in its wake. Distant screams assaulted the ear. Fires raged in reckless abandon, thick stacks of ugly black smoke belching upward into the heavens to darken the sky. It reminded him of an extinction-level event. My, this is unexpected. For a fleeting heartbeat, nothing stirred in the rubble. Then a purple meteor roared up out of the ruined infrastructure, shrieking like the devil itself. Oh, wow. What the hell was that? Badly burned and missing a good portion for his tail, Beerus landed heavily on his feet, patting himself down. His opponent wasn't far behind. Naruto landed on all fours after him, clawed fingers digging into the dirt, eyes wild, frothing at the mouth. The Hakaishin danced backwards in retreat, eyes wide. This wasn't a man anymore. This was a beast pretending to be a man, a creature in human flesh. My word, he's mad. What got into him? All he got was a growl. Enough of this. I'll finish you with the next blow. Leading with his left, Beerus struck out at the feral warrior, only to find himself inexplicably parried, then outright blocked. Him! Blocked. His opponent had caught his arm by the wrist and now held fat, in spite of his best efforts to tear himself free. Blank white eyes regarded him coldly, good arm gripping his left and drawing him close. When he tried to retreat, those strange tails tripped him up and held him down. Naruto grinned. Then he opened his mouth and spat white-hot kai. Point blank. And all Beerus knew was light.